All right. What's up, everyone? We are live. Episode 1, official episode 1 of what we're going to call the online series of the KICNA show. Now branded KICNA's live temporarily.
Live. Temporarily, we can stick with this.
Yeah.
I like it.
It's got a nice flow to it. So I'm your co-host, Strider Ace. Joining me is KIC, partner in crime.
G'day.
And now after talking about special guests for so long, this setup allows us to do it. Does not rely on us being together and having a extra set of equipment. Quetz 87.
Oh, that's right. That was what the problem was. Hey,
Yeah, that
what's
was
up,
the
guys?
problem. Our biggest fan of the show.
Because I was like, well, I was there the whole time. You could have had me on earlier, but then I realized, yeah, you definitely did have the space and the headset problem. It's definitely true.
Yeah, because there was no way to distribute it. There was like 2 headsets, and basically there was really no way to get a third person unless we had an open mic, but we couldn't get an open mic, so we had to just keep delaying and talking nonsense without any promises of having a guest on. Hoping. What's up, J-Nuts? How you going? Alright. So, how should we start this?
Let's start with... I'm going to start with this. Quetz, 2 top 8s in a row, 2 majors in a row. How does that make you feel? Do you feel like you're definitely top 10 in Australia now?
I'd have to like list who I'd be trying to get in above in order to say that, because I feel like there's a potential after playing a lot of these players. I think the only people that I wouldn't be able to like bust out a win. I really have to work for it. I have to get to that next level. Is obviously Spud, and probably SA Nick still. Although I haven't played him recently. Every time I have played him, I've always thought that he was like still a step up. Whereas I feel like based on, I think I've played everyone else now. SD was the last person that I hadn't played yet. But having played him now, and then having played a few of the other people a few more times and all that, I would say that everyone else for me is beatable. Whether or not I have like that means that it's in my favor or not is not really a thing. I'd say maybe some of them still have like a 60-40 or 70-30 advantage over me or something like that. Doesn't mean that I still wouldn't be able to. Whereas I think in the case of Spud, it's just like I wouldn't even want to put a number on it at the moment. So yeah, I think it's possible, but top 10 means that, well, there's going to be a lot of people who are bunched together very closely. And as always with Australians, it's hard to have enough data to really separate them apart from each other.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, like we say back-to-back top 8s, but that last top 8 was almost a year ago now, so... Or the previous top 8, so...
Yeah, exactly. And who did I get to play? I played SD... Like, of the people that I would be competing against for this position would be SD, Rainbow, and Dom B. And I narrowly beat Dom B. And had both SD and Rainbow had games that could have gone in my favor if I had just stepped it up just that little bit. So, yeah, it's possible, but I think I can continuously get into the top 8, but I would always be working for it currently. At the current level, I would always be working for it to get into top 8, whereas I think some of the other players are more likely to be consistently getting into the top 8.
Yeah, that's fair enough. You're seeded very well as well, so...
I was, yeah. Point. Yeah, I would have really liked to have beaten SD though and have played Armada, but I don't know whether or not that might have hurt me based on who I would have versed in losers. But I never really checked that far. I kind of had a rule with BAM where I tried not to focus on the bracket, which was kind of hard because I went into that thinking I was almost ready to like not even look at the bracket at all. So I had no idea who I was about to play. But it kind of doesn't work because not only do the people you are going to play come up to you and tell you, but literally everyone is constantly asking the question, what's your bracket, who are you playing, la la la. And some people know the bracket so well, they're just telling you, even though they're not like near your side of the bracket at all. They're like, oh, you have to play such and such and such. And you're like, oh, okay, I didn't even know that. So yeah, the strategy of not trying to focus on the bracket to kind of like keep a calm mind didn't. It worked, but it also was kind of sabotaged unintentionally, like by the other entrants, I guess.
Yeah, to me,
people are always going to be like, sorry.
To me, it feels like it works well at the start when you're in pools, when you don't know who these people are. But as you get further into the bracket, it kind of lingers in your mind. Who you start thinking about who your potential opponents are, right? I don't know if you feel that way.
Yeah, especially because in some cases it can be night and day between your chances. Two players might be considered on an even level, but for you, one of them is far more difficult than the other, and it can be, luck whether or not you get one or the other, and that can be the difference between getting 9th or 7th or 5th. And I mean, it's unfortunate, but people who get 9th are just forgotten about, basically. Like, your name doesn't appear in that. These are the people that got top 8 lists. And yeah, and even like from 7th to 5th, for example, if you lose, you're in the top 8 and then you lose, then you have less exposure in the top 8 viewing as well. You play one set, you're out, you're not seen again. Whereas if you win and then you get to play the next round and you lose, it just has that much more impact. It feels like you got a lot further. I mean, obviously you did get a lot further, but the impact that it would have on other people's perception of how well you did is much greater. And that's like a big factor in Australia Smash as well, is your feeling like it's all about perception more than results, because that's like mostly what we've got to go by. So if someone seems to be appearing like, or you just notice them more, people talking about them a lot, then they'll stick in your mind as those top players. It's kind of an interesting with Australian Smash. It's a lot to perception, I think.
Yeah, you kind of have.
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting concept.
I'd say the top 4, right, is usually consistent, and then it's kind of like a shoot from like bottom 5, the 5th onwards, who places. It's really volatile, I guess, because of a lot of inconsistencies in being able to train and stuff like that.
Yeah,
definitely.
You say top 4 is consistent, but is it? Because you go Spud. All right, Spud number 1, Sora's probably number 2. And then what? Where do you go from there?
Yeah,
well, we don't really know.
Exactly. Yeah.
No one's really cemented themselves as anything, honestly. Like in my mind, the only person who's cemented themselves in any kind of position is Spud, and everything else is kind of a free for all. And honestly, there's really not that big of a gap between everyone else after that, and even like outside of top 8 in tops, in the top 32, for example. It wouldn't take much for a solid top 32 player to break into that top 8. I'll be playing someone who's a top 32 player currently. I could pick a random person out of that group and then play them and think, man, if you just fix this and fix that, then you would beat me. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's funny how with Melee you can just have such a small advantage over someone and leverage it so hard that you can just basically never lose against them in a set. So it's not that established. Australian Smash is not that established in terms of its hierarchy.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, it's definitely, if we had tournaments like monthly or whatever, and people were going to all of them, then maybe there would be an established hierarchy. But you're right, it's not definitive enough with the information we get every year to be able to tell who is the best and who is the worst outside of Spud. But that's because Spud, has proven for multiple years to be the best.
I think we're kind of talking about it in a way where it sounds like it's a bad thing, but I think it's a really good thing, actually, because it just makes it more exciting when you watch the tournament. You're like, we don't actually know who's going to win here because there's very little data, and there's been so much time that has passed in between. Some of them is like people have never played before, So you don't know. You couldn't possibly know how they were going to do against each other, or there might be a style clash or something like that that gives the underdog an advantage. But yeah, you just don't know. Even if it's the same people versus each other, you know, half a year later or a year later, a lot can change in that time. So I think it makes it more interesting to watch when there is less thing. And yeah, that's a big draw to it.
It's definitely like it feels like no matter what tournament you go to, top 8 is still like there's still some level of hierarchy in it all. I think because your top 8s are similar every tournament. But then yeah, the top 32 and the top 64 is like it's different every tournament. It depends who's there, and then it depends on like there seems to be at this point like every major there's a new player who's just risen up to that next level. Maybe not necessarily like the top 8 level, but like the 10 to 20 level.
I mean, Sora was one of those players. He rose very quickly. It's kind of easy to forget because we're kind of already used to it. But like his tournament success at tournaments would have only been from the last year or so, right?
Since like Bam 9.
Yeah, so about a year.
He really started to cement himself.
Yeah. So he's only established himself for a year.
Yeah.
Which shows, like, I mean, you're right. It does seem with the same people, but it shows the potential of how easy it is for someone to just cut straight through.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Spud.
Yeah.
He was only playing for a year when he went to BAM 7.
Yeah. He wasn't even. I didn't even know if he was on anyone's radar at BAM 7. I wasn't so much in the know-how at that point, but.
I think he was second or third seed in his pool, so he was like on the radar, but people kind of like they're saying he's good, but what does that actually mean? Kind of thing. You know how.
Well, I'd never heard of him. I'd never heard of him before BAM 7, and I went to BAM 7. And I didn't know who he was. So
I didn't know who he was after the tournament.
I'm like, who is this guy?
You know, it's funny. Speaking of Spud for just a moment, and then after BAM 7, it really sucks for Spud that he like that opportunity to go to the summit. You know how he was in the summit voting.
Oh yeah.
But none of Perth really backed him because it was like, well, none of Australia really backed him because he wasn't really established and well known or anything like that. Yeah. It really sucks because it feels like he missed his window because now there's all these criteria on how to enter the summit. And I mean, it's really difficult for him to meet that criteria now. So, I feel like he missed that window of opportunity there. It might not come back unless, I mean, it's going to take a serious investment from Spud to be able to make some sort of breakthrough in Smash. It's just really hard for us here.
Yeah, you got to go to the States.
If Spud asked, I reckon he could get in, like through extendable circumstances, like he could get put into the thing because they'd understand how hard it is for Spud to meet that criteria. It would cost him like $8,000 to go to 4 tournaments a year, and you know it would be unfair to get it funded by others, and it'd probably be unfair on Spud to just pay the $8,000 just to get a chance to go to the summit. So surely they could go, look, obviously you're somewhere in the top 100. We don't know where. But maybe we can figure that out if you go to the summit.
Yeah, I mean, he's had such an unfortunate series of events with how he performed against international players a lot of the time. Like he had a really good opportunity at Dyad 2 when he could have beaten Zoo and then played MacD, and he was beating MacD in friendlies as well. So there was a good chance that he would be able to beat 2 international players at that tournament, but he wasn't able to pull it off. And then the same kind of thing I feel like happened at BAM, where he was really confident in being able to beat Chudat, and looked like it was doable. But yeah. And then even though he probably wouldn't have beat Armada, of course, I think he was doing quite well against Armada in friendlies. He was taking games. Would have been likely I think he would have taken at least one game. And just that one game would have been enough to have more of an impact on people's opinion. It's funny how we're kind of quite reliant on Spud's performance, like a trickle down effect of, you know, we benefit if Spud benefits, if in a way, you know what I mean? He's like our avatar. We have to benefit from him.
I mean, he's the best we got to represent our scene, really.
Yeah,
he's the only one really. Like everyone talks up, you know, Sora as the next up and comer, but he's still not. He's not even close to Spud, really. So, like, he came close at OHN, but you just look at the way Armada just absolutely obliterated him, and you go, he's not ready yet. He's got a long way to go.
Yeah.
I mean, he's only been playing for like 2.5, 3 years, so there's still plenty, or 3.5 years, I don't know. So there's still plenty of time for him to get good, but
he's a Fortnite player now.
When Melee's gonna get to that peak, and
yeah, I mean, the good thing is that if Spud does do well at a major in America, then hopefully the next time we have a major in Australia, someone will be thinking, oh, you know, I might make the trip over, and then it's on us to like try and beat that one representative, and then kind of crawl up from there. If we're trying to go through that route. The other route is that we just get really good as a country, and then like whenever at least one person comes, they just consistently lose, and then it becomes like a mythical kind of place where it's like, man, everyone in Australia is really good kind of thing. But that's a bit fantasy. Yeah, it's a bit fantasy.
Think it's possible. I think it's just like growth in Melee and just in general is exponential, and like Americans are playing more. They have better people to play against, and they have more tournaments and a big community to work with. So it's just like we can try our best, but we have to try a lot harder than the Americans do to get good, or the Europeans even.
Yeah. Ultimately, I think a lot of the biggest issues that face like trying to get good in Australia are kind of remedied by net play, because the biggest things is being able to have a variety of people to play against, and then a lot of practice on ban. And that net play pretty much is good enough. And if there's enough players on net play that as a pool of players, they would all be getting good off each other. And so you're seeing that in the tournament results as well. One of the people who got to the award for most improved player and played very well was Duck, and he's just a net player, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of shows that if you're just in there and you're thinking, oh, well, how good can you get from just playing lots of bad players? But I think the key difference is that you're playing a lot of different bad players. And I know that sounds kind of like, well, what's the difference? But it's like you actually get bad players still have different styles that are similar to a good player style. Like, for example, you might say, oh, you play like a bad Quetz. You play like a bad, you know, SD or Spud. You know what I mean? You can tell that someone's playing a kind of style after a better player. And so you still get experience of how to deal with the base level of that style of play, which prepares you really well for when you do come across that player. Definitely one of the biggest advantages I've gotten out of net play is being able to more quickly detect the type of style that someone is using against me, because I've seen it all the different kinds of styles now. Whereas when we kind of played more insulated in Perth, it was like I just know how to play against, you know, Kari's Falco. I only know that style of Falco. Whereas now I've experienced more of them. So, yeah, I think you can fix a lot of those problems with net play. So there is a possibility. I think I'll just leave it there.
Well, if you have more thoughts on it.
Well, I mean, this kind of then leads into the problems that we're having in Perth at the moment. I don't know if you want to jump into that right now.
No, we can talk about it. What do you want to say about it?
Well, so there's a few problems that we're having in Perth at the moment, and I think the obvious one is numbers. There's few people who play right now, but I also have a feeling that and I was actually talking to Bryce about this just the other day. That because this is also exacerbated by the fact that we have few players, but we kind of based our community after how it's done in America, which makes sense. You know, there's tournaments, you know, quite regularly, la la la. But the thing is that we're quite a small group, and so I was just thinking about whether or not that kind of style that we went for, like regular tournaments, weekly or bi-weekly or whatever, was the best idea to begin with, and whether or not the tournament culture, I guess, or lack of a better way of putting it, might have like pushed people out of the game. It would be kind of like if you wanted to, like, you saw tennis on TV, right? And you wanted to go, okay, where can I play tennis in Perth? And then you found the Facebook group, and you went there, you went to the event. They only played tournaments. Every time they met up, they only played tournaments. And so, of course, you played your 2 games and you got eliminated, everything like that. That's kind of the experience. Whereas that's not really what happens if you've ever been in a sports group or something like that, or any kind of club. It's always mostly based around a casual experience of you go in there and you casually play a game, and then there might be a special event. Very rarely that's a tournament. And usually on top of the casual event, the group is also quite social amongst themselves. I think we have that going for us already. We're already quite social amongst each other. Like most of the friends that I have, and I probably have as well, are Smash related friends. But I think we put a lot of focus on it having this tournament lean because we were modeling it after like how they do it in the States and stuff like that. Whereas I think we just didn't have the numbers to really prop that up for long enough without pushing. Like, we're basically building ourselves up so that we're going to have this elite group of players that basically made it really hard for other people to join. And that's another thing. Imagine back in that tennis example, you went to this tennis club, and not only was everyone so much better than you that you couldn't even catch up, but like they all got together in a group afterwards without you and just, you know, did their own little social group. And there was just no one else that joined this group because there was no way of, like, they all got put off by the same experience. So you were the only bad player or stuff like that. And the other problem is that because we have no venue, it would almost be like if this tennis club met up at a private person's house. Would you want to go? You know, if it was like, oh, you know, tennis at Bob's house tonight, and you hadn't been to a tennis thing tonight, would you want to go to Bob's house? So that's another problem we're having at the moment, which is the lack of venue. And we could survive off just doing like private, you know, doing at people's houses. But if we were coming from the angle of trying to grow the scene, that's a very dead-end approach. But then again, this comes up to another question of whether or not we're trying to grow the scene anyway, or we're just trying to enjoy the game now, because we're kind of thrown in the towel to some extent. Of there's maybe no future for, you know, Perth having these big melee tournaments or anything like that, and maybe we should just enjoy the game as a group as we have it now, and then the few of us that want to be competitive can find that competitiveness on net play, and then go to the tournaments as we normally do, and the rest of us can just enjoy the game. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, we definitely got to build the social aspect locally. I don't think relying on net play and then just going straight up to a national tournament is the way to go. Because
yeah, I think ultimately you would still want to have like some kind of to prepare, but I don't know. It seems like there aren't many people who make that decision in Perth to travel in the first place.
There's been, I mean, Band 7, we had 30 or so.
Yeah,
Smash
but part of that was because we had already been, like, I don't know about you, but I'd already made friends with some of the scene, which gave me a big reason to go. It wasn't because of the internationals and stuff. Yeah, like, because I knew I was going to go with some people, and I traveled by myself. So let's say like someone who's new wants to travel as well, but they don't have anyone they can like kind of meet up with once they land or something. It's kind of like no real reason for them to go.
Yeah,
But,
and sorry, but like for anyone that's not feels like they're part, like they might play Melee in Perth and they feel like they're not part of the group. I don't think it's anything got to do with like there's no deliberate malicious intent behind it to try and exclude someone because we don't like them or something like that. It's usually because as an entry-level player, it's kind of like it's self-imposed in a way. Like not everyone suffers from this problem. Entry-level players have sometimes made a splash on the scene. Do you know what I mean? Like Ajax, for example, never shied away from, inviting people over to his house, getting involved in the social aspect and being part of the group and everything like that. Whereas other people might, everyone's different. Some people are a bit more timid and they don't want to, force their way into a group if they don't feel like then being invited into the group. But part of it is that we're not playing each other enough to allow, like I can't sit down and play one of these players for an extended period of time because honestly, normally they're beaten by someone else in the first round because normally I wouldn't be playing the worst player at the tournament in round one. They would normally get beaten by someone else and then they would get eliminated in losers on the first round. So I would have no interaction with this person whatsoever. And then normally they're either gone by the end of the tournament or it's kind of like the tournament's done, everyone goes home, we move on to something else, like let's go get dinner like how we did the other day. So if it was more like let's just have an event where we play social smash, then you would be able to sit down and play with that person for quite a long time, but not just play with them but actually like interact with them as a person so they feel a little bit more comfortable around us in general and actually become friends with them and stuff like that.
Sorry, go ahead, Jason.
So I was just reading what Jet said. He said it's you don't want to have too many casual because the people who want to be competitive kind of like they don't have a reason to come to the event, you know what I mean? Like say Spud is just there to win the money. If we have too many of those casual events and not enough competitive, then what do you guys think? Do you think it's detrimental for the scene or it's a state by state basis?
I think with it really depends. I think it's kind of like a needs basis. And at the moment, like all our PR players, minus I guess like me, Dennis, and Niv, would come to tournaments if they were there. Well, I'd still come, but I wouldn't enter, if you know what I mean. And that's not the issue we have. Like our top players are still good. They're still comparative to the rest of Australia. They'll still play. They still travel and everything like that. It's more these like 20 and past players, if you know what I mean. These new guys, these like the Neilio and all those guys that have just come into our Discord. They're the ones we need to be targeting. And I think casual events would be better for them. Like at the end of the day, if Spud's like, these events aren't for me, I'm not going to come. It's not going to make Spud leave Melee. He's still going to play Melee.
Yeah.
It's the same with Sundowns. It's the same with Chapos. So I think at the moment, I think Quetz is right. I saw somewhere Fact Controller, whatever it is, said SA weeklies, they have tournaments once a month, but they have weekly meetups. That sounds decent. I still think bi-weeklies can work as long as the bracket isn't the main focus, because I think that's the issue is people just come for the bracket, and that's not what Melee should be about for us at the moment, in my opinion.
And I mean, let's face it, like the results are very predictable currently, and I'm not sure what it's getting to a point because the numbers are so small and everyone becomes quite familiar with each other. It's like it's not very satisfying beating your friends like that. Do you know what I mean? It's much more satisfying going to another state and beating, the enemy, if you know what I mean. But then just beating each other is just kind of lame after a while. You don't get much satisfaction out of it. And it hasn't changed too much recently. I think everyone's getting better, but everyone's kind of getting better together. And so there hasn't actually been much variation. I've basically been in the same position since I started playing. So, but I am still a lot better than I was when I started playing. So it feels like everyone's just kind of moved together at the same rate.
Yeah.
And there's all these people in between us. If you were to bring in other states, you know, there is, you know, bigger variety, but we just don't have that variety amongst each other. So, yeah, we kind of have two choices. If we want to have this idea of having tournaments that matter, we need to get more numbers, and that's a whole another discussion on how we're meant to be getting numbers.
Firstly, we got to start with the venue first. Perth is so difficult to, especially maintain a consistent one, because that's really important. Not just making the events, you got to make sure people know what days are going to be on, right? Because like administrating Curtin's a big mess around. They just wouldn't give us days we wanted, so we have to keep changing. So that never took off, right? So yeah, the problem with Perth, we need the venue bad. I think a lot of people need to know that. Like we're not shy to make events and stuff, but all we have is house invites right now, and some people are like reluctant to invite new strangers over to their house to play, so it's kind of hard to do that. So yeah.
Yeah, some of these events are private as well, so you wouldn't, you know, if you might have been someone in the Facebook page who would be keen to come to one of these tournaments, but because you're not in the radar of the person who's hosting, then you just go overlooked.
Yep.
Well, just in that perspective, if I was a player like coming fresh in, and there wasn't a Myriad to go to, or there wasn't a Curtin to go to, and like say Harry, who I've never met before, invites me over to his house for a house tournament with 20 people I've never met before, I absolutely wouldn't come. I would just be like, no.
Yeah, you definitely have to be thinking about this of the perspective of someone who is starting from the first step, where they might have watched a Smash tournament and got into it somehow. Maybe when the future documentary comes out or something like that, we have to try and be thinking of what that person would be thinking. And there's actually quite a lot of steps that would be involved and a lot of barriers before they'd even get to the point of attending an event. The first thing is they would have to go out of their way to find the Facebook page, which they may presume right from the beginning doesn't even exist and not even going to bother. Like, for example, let's say you just watched a Tetris tournament. When you make the leap to, I wonder if there's a Tetris, you know, group in Perth. How often do you think that kind of thing when you see something like that? You might not immediately make that connection. It sounds silly, but you might just presume that Perth doesn't have these things and not make that next step. So that's one thing. And then after they've made that step of finding the Facebook page, they then have to work out, all right, well, obviously I want to practice this game. How am I going to do that? They might not have a GameCube. They might not have a Wii. They might not know how to do Dolphin setup's confusing. Their net play setup's confusing. And it's not just like, oh, well, it's not that hard. But the thing is, when your interest is quite like, you know, anything could make you just back out of it completely. If you need to go through all these instructions just to set up something, you'd be like, yeah, you know what, never mind. I'm not going to bother with this. And so that whole setup loses people. And then when you might have gotten past all that and you're practicing the game and everything like that, then you're looking for an event and none of them are coming up on the Facebook page because they're all being privately held. And if one does come up on the Facebook page and it is at someone's house, again, like we were just talking about, you'd be thinking, well, I don't know about that. I don't want to, that seems a little bit too personal. I'd rather it be at an actual venue, you know, where I'm not having to go to someone's house because, you know, they might be all friends, and I'm just out of the loop and feel uncomfortable. So, yeah, currently, it's no surprise to me that we're probably looking at a growth rate of approaching zero. Probably negative, actually. We're losing players.
Yeah, definitely. It's been negative for a while. We've got those two or three guys in the Perth Smash Discord that have been talking and stuff. But I feel like if we don't actually start. Oh, Legacy's one. Yeah, Legacy's come in. I feel bad. He's coming at the worst time, but
yeah, he definitely came in at like the dark times of Perth Smash.
I think it's important to keep in touch with those guys. Like, even if we can't meet them in person, you know, just try and like make sure like the Discord or whatever is active to make them feel a part of the scene still. Like talk about current melee results and shit like that.
Yeah, it really sucks because I really wish that we didn't have to. The venue problem really is a problem because
It is.
I wish we didn't have to depend on a venue. But then, as for reasons we just talked about, we can't not depend on a venue because then people won't come to private events.
Yep.
So we really do actually need a venue. And the problem with the venue is that then the onus is on someone to actually like book the venue, organize it, all this extra work. And we know how that goes down. Like it's a lot of thankless work that, you know, I can understandably people are reluctant to put their hand up for. So
Yep, absolutely.
And you can't blame anyone for not wanting to do it, right? I mean, people have got their own lives to go about. You can't blame anyone for not wanting to do it. So we're just kind of stuck in this awkward situation where, you know, we don't have a venue and we're just a small group. And at this rate, we may end up just playing amongst each other until it just slowly fades away. That's where it's going right now. I hate to be kind of gloomy about it, but that's what is organically happening right now is that there's a small group that play amongst each other sometimes, and there's a few small competitive players that might practice on net play, and then, you know, some of them might go to a tournament in the eastern states, and that's it.
It's definitely a dark age for Perth Smash at the moment, I think. It's been darker.
Yeah.
But not in this
year. Yeah, there have been darker, but it's like, let's say the biggest possibility for new players is when this new documentary comes out, right? I can't think of anything else but this new documentary. But there's a difference between there's a difference between when this documentary, like the state of Perth Smash when this documentary comes out to when the last one comes out, when the last one came out rather. When the last one came out, there was basically no scene. So everyone felt like they might have had this kind of, there was excitement about the game, and there was nothing like PRs and all that kind of stuff. It was about, you know, finding your way, you know, it wasn't established basically, and everything was in flux. Whereas if this new documentary came out now, and we had this influx of new players, what's going to be stopping them from running into the same roadblocks that is stopping anyone from coming into now, in terms of getting beaten by players that are way, way, way better than them, private events and all that kind of barriers. We could end up having a lot of interest for the game, but then end up losing them all straight to the same barriers. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The skill level issue is pretty massive at the moment. Like, Legacy is definitely bridging the gap slowly, and like you look at people like Sam bridge the gap. There's plenty of other people, but it's just the amount of effort you have to put in to get PR in Perth is probably, I mean, it's hard to say because I don't know the other scenes, but it'll probably be extremely one of the hardest, just because the skill gap between what is the top 10 and everyone else is very big. And it's because we've all been playing and everything for so long. We've been so dedicated. And when we started, there was somewhere to work to, a much more manageable goal. Like, you look at it when, you know, me and Jason and Dennis and all that came in, we were all bad. So obviously if you came in at that point, you could beat us. And then Max and Tom and everything, who are a lot better now, were a lot worse back then. So then they were a manageable task. Whereas now, you have to beat Sam, who would be easily beating people like Max and Tom back then.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, would it be like you just be beating them on less than autopilot? You're even with your with a midnight debuff autopilot, you would still
Like, it's not something you can do though, because it's not like, hey, all you top players get worse so that new players can have a chance against you. That's just such a stupid thing to say.
Yeah, and you never want to deliberately play bad against someone just to help them, because that's just insulting in other ways. So.
Yeah, you need to organically fill the 11 to 30 range with a big group of people who get better at a similar rate, but at different tempos. I don't know how to explain it, but like you want.
I know what you mean.
I know what you mean.
So then, if a new person comes in, they're like, "All right, well, if I can beat 27th, then I can work my way up to 22nd, and then 15th, and then by the time you're at top 15, you're starting to challenge those PR players.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's definitely a big problem.
As much as we give shit for like Big Win 30 and all that stuff, it's kind of like a good way to fill that void, right? Because we need let's say we need the 30. So if you're saying I want to beat 27, it's kind of good for people to have those goals to set, so if they want to keep moving up to the top 10, like the most.
What's this Big Win 30? Sorry.
Oh, like like sometimes even other states would just have like a ranking of the 30 best players in their region or whatever.
Like their PR goes out to 30, or they have a PR.
Yeah, well, yeah, like,
it's not a PR. It's just a rank.
Yeah, it's like a where you're at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I mean, I couldn't even name 30 Perth Melee players right now.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, like, if I think on a good day, if we get consistent enough, I believe we can get like 30 average. Like, we've done it before. It's just
yeah,
we've got new players, and we have players in the hiding who want to come back. I've talked to a few of them recently, but I've tried to keep them reassured, but unfortunately, I didn't make any promises. But
yeah.
God, sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Got Cam the Mans. Do you want to read that one out, Jason?
Okay, yeah, I'll read it. So, a group of friends and I used to go to Curtin Mail in 2015. I don't think any of us were aware that house tournaments were even going on. We've been running tri-monthly meme tournaments in an attempt to get better. I think the main problem is just the lack of opportunity to meet other Melee players. Not so much the skill level gap. I'd like to think Melee is the sort of game that if someone's interested, they'll get hooked no matter how badly get destroyed, but that's just me. I mean, yeah.
I think that's true.
That is true.
In terms of a lot of games, Melee is like one of those games where if you love it, or if you even just have a near passing interest in it, that you start playing it, you get hooked.
Honestly, I think what I believe is you come for the Melee, you stay for the community, right? Because
yeah, for sure.
Like getting destroyed, getting blown up even in a fighting game is a real reality check that some people like understandably can't take, so they quit. But if they have an attachment to the scene, they come back. Then they just like KIC. He doesn't play anymore, but he'll come back. He has an opportunity to talk about his story with new players, which is like really important, right?
Yeah, for sure. I was like, because I was having a similar conversation with Kenton and Bryce the other day about it, and I said to them, look, you would be more likely to come to like a social event, like versus like they would not come to a tournament right now. They're basically not playing tournaments, but there's that possibility of going to a social event, because anyone can just pick up and play Melee when they left off. You know what I mean? It's not like you have to. Oh no, I don't want to play. Teams friendlies because I haven't practiced. Like people are gonna pick up the controller and play, and they go slip back exactly where they left off. But there's just, I mean, where's the opportunity to do that right now?
Yeah, it's tough, man. What happens?
I think everyone, even if they're not playing the game, still can add value to the community. I tried doing it with the awards night, but I realize now that it was still kind of stuck in, hey, we're gonna, all these people that are part of the community already, here's something for you. Which the idea was initially more, it was supposed to be more, hey, let's all get together and not have a tournament. But I think a social night idea is where it needs to go.
I really liked that. I thought that night was a really good example of something that everyone who would have gone would have enjoyed. I'm pretty sure everyone would have enjoyed that, because there was something more to it than just a smash. It was at a bar.
That's always nice.
It obviously had the awards night as well, but it didn't need to have that. Of course, that was the main purpose of it. But if we were to have something identical to that without the awards part of it, I think a lot of people would come and enjoy it, because there's no expectation on anyone to perform well or do in a certain way or whatever, and it encourages people to just chat with the people that they might see attending the tournaments all the time, like us three, but feel like they can only do that once they've earned. There's kind of like good player force field. You know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, I better not talk to Spud because he's a known player, and
yeah.
I don't know. There's a kind of like mental barrier of like, oh, I can't just approach someone who's way better than me at this game and just start demand friendlies from them or just discuss things. People are a little bit more apprehensive to approach someone like that. But there's this doesn't exist. We're just normal people. So again, like, yeah, but there's no opportunity for them to do that anyway. So.
Yeah,
I think like with Spud, before a tournament, he wouldn't say no to any friendlies unless he's already playing. Like realistically, unless the only time Spud might say no to you is if like Armada's there and he's like, no, I gotta play Armada. They get my time. Yeah. But at a Perth tournament, I don't think Spud would ever say no to friendlies. I don't think any person in Perth would say no to friendlies.
Yeah, no, I've seen that.
Yeah, and I think things like this is good for like our scene because they get a better insight of who we are. Hello, if you guys are watching this back, I'm number 6, former number 4 in the middle, and current number 2. Hello, we're top 10 in Perth. We're cool guys.
Oh.
Come and talk to us.
I thought you were talking about yourself the whole time. You're like, former number 6.
You have to get past my second position force field first before you can talk to me.
Yeah, I didn't add that in properly. Yeah. But yeah, like I'm seeing like Perth people in the chat that I've never met before. But you guys don't be scared if you see us. If an event ever happens, it will.
Well, at least you know now what the issues that we're facing are like, or what's going on. You might be aware that there is something happening, or that you might be out of the loop. But in all honesty, there's been like three tournaments as far as I remember. There was the one that was at Chaffos's house a few weeks just before BAM. There was one at Harry's house, and there was the one at the Games Museum, right?
Do you mean the one in December?
Was that in December?
The Nostalgia Box.
Yeah, the Nostalgia Box. Was that in December?
That was December, yeah.
Oh, jeez. Well, there you go. There's only 2 that I remember then this year. And we're approaching halfway. So at this rate, we'll have 4 tournaments in the whole year.
Oh, that's
worse than last year. Last year wasn't too bad. Last year we had.
Man, there was time. Back at a time we had 4 tournaments in the 1 month.
We had more than 4 in a month. Oh, those were the days. I mean, there were benefits to weekly tournaments because you just pick and choose which ones you wanted to go to, but they were unsustainable, I think.
Yeah, it was a little bit like we were just throwing money away, kind of thing.
That was too much saturation.
Living large.
Lucky Spud
was saturation.
He'd be fucking rich.
Yeah.
That was I don't know. I'd still take that over this. What we've got.
Well, you were talking before about like. Or someone mentioned in the chat, would top players likely come to, like, wouldn't they just avoid tournaments? The numbers are so low that there's nothing really in it anyway.
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
What are you getting out of a 10-man? Yeah, I got $20 at the last time. I got $20. I got to pay for dinner that we went to right after with the money that I won.
Hey, that's worth it.
Like
I think.
$20. $20 isn't gonna be the difference between whether or not someone leaves the house to go to an event or not.
Yeah, exactly.
In fact, if someone said, "Oh, you could either have a chance of winning $20, or you can just have a whole night of being a much more enjoyable time where it's less focused about the stress of well, it's not really stressful, but you have the thing where you might play a couple of sets and that's it, or you could just play non-stop friendlies and just have a social interaction." There's a certain value in a tournament that's not worth it when the numbers are so small, especially if they're going to be happening frequently, and especially when we already know how it's going to go most of the time. So
yeah, exactly. There's not much value. No, I shouldn't say there's not much value in a tournament, but there's not much value currently in tournaments outside of having them. I don't want to make them sound like they're useless, because they're not. We really need them, but at the same time, there's many other things we need as well. Monthly would be juicy right now.
Yeah, I think so because we haven't really talked about it yet. But what would be if someone said to you you were tasked to save Perth Melee? You had to. What is your strategy to bring it all back? Where would you begin? You had to build a scene. It had to be bigger than before. It had to be like we're trying to get it up to like a Victoria levels. How would you do that?
It's theoretically possible, but it would not be easy. There'd be a lot of luck involved. All right, Jason, go for it.
Oh my god, I've thought about this like a lot in my off time.
Everyone has, man. Everyone's like, how do I fix this?
First one.
Beat Hatebot.
Yeah. Well, those are kind of like shortcuts, but the obvious definitive step one is trying to find a place where we can call home to play Smash, like a venue. Consistent venue.
They're not going to kick us out.
Yeah. See, the thing with Curtain Smash, it's very good, but the things that go on in the back that we have to do to keep it afloat, it's like migraine inducing sometimes, to say the least.
Yeah.
So it didn't surprise me when a lot of people just jumped ship and didn't want to do the stuff involved with it, because it really is a big hassle. And yeah. I know some people are saying, yeah, you can use your local unis and stuff to try and get a venue. We've done that. We're trying to bring it back now. That's the situation we're in. But in the off time, without that, like a contingency plan, if Curtain never comes back, we need somewhere else kind of give us a home.
Well, okay, so let's say we luck out and we find somewhere new that's not Curtain Smash and it's pretty sustainable.
So UWA have already rejected. I don't know about the others because I don't go there and I don't know anyone who goes to those unis. Sorry, go on.
I was about to actually inquire about what is it? Good Games in Cannington. But then I just completely forgot all about it, and then BAM happened. And, you know how they prepare for BAM, and you have like BAM is like 3 days, but then it feels like it's like actually all this that's around it at the same time, the lead up and then the wind down and everything that comes before it. Maybe I'm just making excuses, who knows? But the Queensland guys have 2 Good Games venues, one in the Gold Coast and one in Brisbane, and Macca just told me that he got in contact with like whoever owned it and just made an arrangement with it. They pay a venue fee and then that's it. So it's like a $5 venue fee for all the players, and I think it's a $5 for the tournament. And they've been running off that for quite a while now. And so there's a Good Games in Cannington, just across the road from Carousel. So not far. Yeah, it's a pretty good spot for sure.
Yeah, Cannington's
and but yeah, we'd need to talk to them about it. And they were pretty booked out last time. I think Chapos was saying that they'd already gotten their whole roster of what they do each day done. But we might not take up that much space, at least originally. And I think even if we might be only getting a few people rocking up, even whether it be tournament or casual or whatever, the thing is that I think because we have a pretty consistent core still, we might be able to demonstrate to them that we're actually serious about this, and they might be seeing that it's bringing new people in, and they might be more willing to like give us more space or whatever. Because the thing with like the Good Game stuff and all these card games and other board games that they have scheduled is that a lot of them are like, if they're having trouble, if we're having troubles with our scene, I could imagine that some of these obscure games are really pushing numbers. So yeah, they might just bump off one of those ones, and we might be able to get a space like that. Which also means if we can establish ourselves in Cannington, I think there's other ones in like the northern suburbs as well, which means that it would be easy to just reference Cannington and be just like if some of the north guys were like, oh, I don't want to go all the way to Cannington, I'd rather play somewhere regional to me, then they could just go tell their local GG that Cannington do this is exactly what they have organized, and then hopefully it's just as easy as the Gold Coast, Brisbane around that they have. So apparently there's Morley and Rockingham.
Oh, that's a good. Morley's a really good location for North.
If there was like a Morley one and a Cannington one, maybe on one a month each, so there's one every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I reckon that'd be really good.
Yeah.
If we could, if like optimally, obviously, we don't know what's going on with that, but that'd be really good because anyone could go to both, or you could just go which one's closer at the same time.
Yep. And
Rockingham's probably. Oh, Rockingham wouldn't be that bad, but most.
There are some people in that neck of the woods, but that would be on them to like try and push something there. But you'd really be struggling, I think, to get numbers. But let's say we were able to pull that off. Let's say we got good games, Cannington. How regular, considering the current state of Perth Smash, would you want the tournaments to be?
No more than 2 weeks, but I think one every 4 weeks.
Yeah.
One every 3 weeks.
I think once a month is good.
One a month? I think once a month would be good too.
Yeah.
1 month feels like plenty of time to have like reasonably changed, like gotten better enough that you felt like you would have made progress by the next month. And that enough time had passed that it feels like a victory or like a better placement is actually a victory of some sort and not about to be erased 1 or 2 weeks later.
Yeah, and
the
then
one issue with that is, go for it.
I'm just gonna say we can sprinkle like social events in between and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I think social events are a lot easier to have not at specific venues. That's what's good about them. You don't need consistency in social events as much.
Well, the great thing about the GG location as well is that there are likely going to be people there that aren't playing Smash that will, because when I went to Brisbane, was that the Gold Coast? Yeah, no, I was at the Gold Coast, and I went to a GG tournament after the Oz Smash Summit, and there were just people playing card games right next to us. It was a full house basically. There were whole tables of people playing cards, and then there was a Smash on the other side of the room. And that would be a good way to just get some exposure or like people talking about it. Those players themselves might not necessarily want to play, but they might know a friend that might be interested, and then they just mention it to a friend, oh, these guys play Smash at such and such. I know that you like Smash, why don't you get into it, kind of. Just becoming more, having a presence in like the actual public sphere, because even when we were at Curtin, we were still kind of like hidden.
Yeah, definitely.
The biggest thing I think we could do, biggest bang for your buck in terms of getting new players for us, is that if we had a tournament again at RF LAN. Because Smash has always been really popular there. People have like, we basically had no scene at one point when Brawl was at the end of its life, and PM was kind of starting to become a thing. This was when Sundown's Chapos and we played at a tournament, or it was around that point, and it would draw big crowds. And like it was kind of like, where are you people normally? Like, why don't you ever attend anything? But the fact is that like it can draw a big crowd. There's excitement for the game. People like Smash, and they'll watch it. And in that environment, like people will, you're going to get a lot of numbers, especially if we did it consistently as well. It's just like we don't exist. It's like we're invisible, basically.
The last RF LAN ticket, the last RF LAN tournament had like 50 entrants, which was pretty good.
Yeah, we didn't have to pay a venue fee, did we? Not from what I remember.
We didn't have to.
Yeah.
But we were kind of thrown into the corner, but still, 50
it doesn't matter.
entrants it's the biggest event we've had minus the Diaz.
What we could do, what we might be able to do actually, is what if we had a major at RF LAN?
I don't think that'd be possible. We can ask, but they've got so much going. Have you been to RF LAN? They don't have the space for anything.
So much space, like being used up.
You think about the Diad, there's so much spare space. That was so good. RF LAN's like the exact opposite.
Could you imagine one day Perth Smash gets so big that we could fill up Curtin Stadium?
Jesus.
Oh my god, that's the dream. Like 3,000 people. That's like not Genesis size, but that's like American major sized venue.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
But maybe I'm thinking a bit too long term. Then, like we have just regular tournaments at RF LAN, but also like once we've built up a reputation of consistency with that, because RF LAN is twice a year, or isn't it?
4 times a year.
Is it 4? Someone let us know.
Yeah, chat, just tell us. I don't remember.
Yeah. I think it's.
But if we were like consistent, if we
Yeah.
were consistent with that, I mean, that could just be our 4 major big tournaments. Or if we were trying to encourage new players, we just have it where the PR people kind of do all the, organize the stuff and do commentary and just hype it up so that the regular players are like feeling like it's something special for them. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's not. It's like because I remember one time at Supernova, the comic convention, that they don't do it anymore. I think now it's Oz Comic Con or something. But we had a booth once, Smashboard's booth. Mick organized it, and we just had it where we every hour or two we were just running little tournaments, and yeah, people like we just hyped it up like it was just regular people, and they were just like it was so into it, and it was drawing big crowds and everything, and people were sitting down and playing Smash and stuff. It would be kind of like that, like having a booth at RF LAN in that way, just to make it known that this exists.
Yeah, as long as we could keep getting through for free, like we wouldn't have to pay a venue fee, then I think that's a really good venture for us.
As Cam the Man said, I wouldn't expect people to pay $50 just for a bracket. Like if you had to buy a ticket to RF LAN, I wouldn't commit to it unless we could promise like a 2-day pools and all that shit. But realistically, there wouldn't be the space for that one.
Yeah, I overlooked that part of it. Maybe there might be some workaround for people who just want to enter Melee. I imagine that like if we're talking about getting most of the players just from the general surrounding area, which is how they always ran Brawl, then we'd only be trying to make an exception for like 20, if anything. Like at the moment, we might get 20 regulars who wouldn't be, participating in RF LAN, and then the rest of the numbers would be made up from people who had already paid that money anyway.
Yeah.
I think you'd be surprised how many people you would get for, say, a $10 tournament if we actually advertised it properly. I think you could see 30 people come. Because the issue with our tournaments, well, we haven't had a tournament in a really long time. The last venue-based tournament we've had was Nostalgia Box, I guess, but it was kind of more... yeah, that's definitely the last one. How many people went to that one? 20?
Yeah, it's like 24, I think. I have to look it up. It was above 20, yeah.
I didn't feel like 24. Okay.
But yeah, so that was 24-ish, somewhere around the 20s, the early 20s. And that's then. And I honestly feel like right now, there's more interest in Melee than there was back then.
Yeah.
Which is strange because we haven't had any tournaments, but it just feels like people want to play more now. And it's kind of showing. And I think if we had a tournament, we announced it maybe a month beforehand, let people know, we'd be able to get 30 people. Not weekly, we're not at that stage, but I still think we could get 30 people to a tournament that was $5 entry.
Okay.
As Cameraman said, he said he'd go for $10.
All right. So we've got our hypothetical venue, and we've got some hypothetical like future of where we might be able to push it beyond that in terms of publicity. What comes after that? How do we? I think the next step is having a bigger interstate presence in terms of being able to get more players here to events like BAM and OHN, and having our major back that brings players from there to here. At the moment, I think a big weakness is that we're kind of like, and understandably, because why would the Eastern States players go out of their way of helping West Coast players come over when they're just coming over anyway, right? But it's really off-putting to the amount that you actually have to spend for flights, accommodation, and all that to travel regularly. We choose. Most of us just chose BAM as our one tournament. Some of us choose OHN as well, and then like after no one chooses anything beyond
No one
that,
chooses
practically.
SAC.
Yeah, but like it's not because it's because we would love to be able to go to the 3 of them. It's just not affordable.
Yeah, it's
And
expensive.
we can't expect people to pay that same cost to come here as well. So what is there a way that we can think of to like alleviate that or help bridge that gap somehow?
It's tricky because I still think that wouldn't be the next step. I think there'd be a few more steps in the
Yeah, I
middle
think you're skipping a
before we
few.
got to that step. I think you're getting too eager there, Josh.
But there's got to be a prospect, right? People aren't going. The competitive players aren't going to want to remain competitive if it doesn't feel like there is something more to like the next step. There's got to be like a smooth ramp from. I want to be the best in Perth. Then I want to see how I do again in Australia. Then I want to see how I do in the world, or maybe in the region, or something like that. People might not even get started if they feel like it's already a dead end from the beginning. You know what I mean?
Well, I think the issue, or maybe the way to combat that, would just be to have more tournaments like DAD 2, because DAD 2 did bring quite a few Eastern Stayers over, and like, sure, we don't have the funds, and we probably won't ever have the funds to fund people to come. And personally, I'm not a big fan of paying for people to come over.
I think we're done with that.
We need to bring them to us, like, without paying.
Yeah, well, look at it this way. Like, a lot of the Sydney guys came over in DAD 2, and that's because they liked us. We have a good communication with
rapport,
Sydney.
Yeah.
Yeah, rapport, that's the word. And then, like, not a lot of Vic guys come over for the exact same reason, I think. And, well, honestly, like, what Tom did is probably the best way to get people to come over. Like, just go over there,
be an ambassador
with people, and he's like, yeah,
and
then
the ambassadors around the world.
I want to see Sunny, so I'm going to go to Big Win Championships. I don't think. I mean, my issue with Big Win Championships is people don't even realize it's a Melee tournament. It just sounds like another Smash 4 tournament. But there's not much.
Yeah, I mean, it's ultimately meant to be a Smash 4 tournament, right? It's just Melee's a side of it.
Well, no, it's supposed to be part of the main. Like, Smash 4 is the main event, but Melee is a main event. But it's kind of sounds like it's a side event because I think it's named and advertised.
Yeah, I mean, I think Big Win Beer has done a really good job of like creating that brand so that when he actually did do Big Win Championships, if you're a Smash 4 player in Australia, it feels like you have to be there. You know what I mean? You know about Big Win Beer's tournaments. You know about these events. It sounds like the one that you have to go to. You know what I mean? I think it was actually quite clever on his part to develop it that way, and it just. I mean, when behind the covers, it's just the same old major, right? Well, I mean that's not to denigrate it anyway. It's actually just a regular major, but it sounds important because it established itself so well. And so people are very likely to come and attend that one part of that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's fine. It's just a tiny naming thing for Melee specifically, but I don't think it really matters. The people that'll come will come anyway. We'll still get it. We'll still get a fair amount of people. And I think some people have shown interest. It's just the issue is we're relying on Jetstar and Tiger more than we are ourselves.
Yeah.
We can't
discount sales.
Control the flight prices.
It's so expensive.
Yeah, maybe Big Win Beer is just our opportunity. When is it again?
August?
Big Win Championship.
So we got 2 months left.
Yeah.
Advertise the hell out of it.
I don't think we can pull that rabbit out of the hat
that's a big commitment.
If anything, we'd be looking at trying to like have a good Perth presence.
Yeah, I think that's a good.
I'd be sure. Like, do we know if any interstaters have shown interest in coming for Melee coming to Big Win Championship?
There's people who've been showing interest. Yeah, quite a few. I can't remember. If Tom's still in chat, he'd be able to list some names off. But
okay.
Yeah, so there's definitely some people showing interest. I don't know how many people are going to commit. I don't think there'll be as many as DAD 2. But we'll see. I think people will come. But
Interesting.
I think it's more for Perth. I know PM has quite a few people coming. Star's already
Okay.
committed. He's already booked tickets and everything. So we'll see.
Deca, MC, and Sora,
Deca, MC.
and Microsoft J is coming. Oh, that's good.
Microsoft J is definitely coming. So there's one.
Beautiful.
Okay.
That's a start, you know. That's what you want. You bring one over and you say, hey, look at how much fun you had here. Perth's the best. He goes back, talks to all his Vic buddies, like, Perth's sick. Can't wait to go next time. And then, you know, next time you see whoever comes next, you know, Don, Kalen, whatever.
It is absolutely
All
possible
those.
that we can. I mean, we're still early June. If we could get on to let's play the GG card and see where that takes us.
Yeah.
And hopefully we might get lucky to get something going immediately, because we need to breathe some life into the Perth Smash scene before we can expect people from other states to be coming too.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't think it. In the end, it doesn't. For the sake of Perth Smash, at this current point in time, it doesn't really matter if we're getting interstate players coming to Big Win Championships. But I can see the next tournament next year it might be relevant if we can actually start to get people. We should be focusing on getting these other new guys that are coming through to Big Win Champs. They're the focus thing.
Yeah, all the Perth people. We need to lock them in first, and 'cause 2 months is not a lot of time for interstate to decide whether they want to go to something.
Maybe we can have some sort of comeback special tournament, the revival of Perth tournament, just before, like as soon as possible.
Yeah, but where? You know,
to try and get those numbers now. Yeah, this is it.
that's the root of all the problems. We can have so many ideas, but unfortunately,
it's not easy.
Yeah, not being being in Perth means stuff is too expensive to be sustainable.
Yeah,
I think GG is a good way to go though. A good attempt.
Yeah. Got to
Realistically, we can go to sports halls and like the previous Big Win beer tournaments.
like the bowling club.
Yeah, the bowling club. That was a place to go. I mean, they only had that venue because Reed worked there, but that's a start to begin with. And you don't know, like if we ask around, there might be some person in Perth Smash who's like, hey, my dad runs this, or I work at this.
Why did Big Win Beer lose bottle?
It's kind of vague. There's not really a real good reason. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it, so I won't really go into it.
Fair enough. They just lost it, and that's that.
Yeah,
that would have been a great venue if we could get our hands on it. If they lost it, then
if they've lost it, we can't get it.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough for us to get it.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Like, I don't think Big Win Beer really knows what happened. They're not esports enough. Yeah, that's probably what it was. Smash Force is not esports.
Yeah, let's all go play Fortnite. Pack it up.
Oh, God.
Play the real sports.
Yeah.
Yeah, a GC revival tourney would be good. That'd be a good place to do it.
GG, you mean?
GC.
Game City.
Game City. Good
Oh yeah,
games.
Game City. Forgot about that. They renovated recently too, didn't they? I saw it on. Yeah. Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Where is it?
No idea.
No, it's not far. If someone knows in the chat, can you tell us like how far it is from the old venue?
Yeah, just spam in the chat.
Yeah, I saw a post recently where they had like all these murals done on the walls and stuff like that, and you know, can't remember the guy's name. He was posting about it. I can't even remember where I saw that because I'm not friends with him on Facebook, so I have no idea where I got that from. But yeah, I saw you like recently opened up.
Oh, is it still
couple hundred meters away from where it was previously? Apparently.
Between the ground and key. Okay.
Oh, that's not too far then. Yeah, that's fine. As long as it wasn't like 6Ks off.
Oh well, if we can go to that place and check out what space we're working with there, we ran tournaments at Game City before, and that was crampy as. That was when PM tournaments were being run.
But I mean, at this point, like a tournament's a tournament. Take anything.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, it's not like we're going to have so many numbers we're not going to fit in, right?
And then
It's
at the
apparently
same
kind of
point,
small still.
it
Mini
could
venues
still
quite
be
great.
sorry, I was just gonna say it could still be could end up being more of a social thing as well. Like, you know, people would still be playing, but the bracket might run a little slower, and you'll have more time just to chat and maybe have something to eat.
Yeah,
All these people.
yeah. Pretzel
a
is
firm-
running Rivals bi-weeklies there.
Oh, that's true.
Rivals
yeah, I
has
don't
a
know what
scene?
kind of Rivals has a bigger
Right.
scene than Melee at the moment. Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, I don't know. How that would go. I think it's worth a shot though. I think GG and GC would be good places to kickstart the scene again.
Yeah, they've got like connections with Smash and stuff, so be good to give it a shot. Should we move on to another topic then? I think we've dragged this one out long enough.
I think we've.
No, I think this is the biggest issue, but I think we're ready to. We've agreed basically that a venue is basically the linchpin here. If we can't get a venue, then what's happening in Perth Smash now will just continue to its final stage, basically.
I think we can bring it back. I'm pretty confident in that.
Yeah, I have like
you get it.
I have like a what's how do you describe it? It's like an optimism, but like in the back of my
You're
head.
bullish.
I feel like I feel like things will work out.
Except 12K has asked thoughts on Smash 5.
Well,
Quetz to play Smash 5.
I was gonna. This was one of my questions I was gonna ask you on this on
Okay.
this week's show. Yeah, so I guess we can move to that real quick. Smash 5. What do we all think of it? Nintendo.
It's
Start with me.
Nintendo. It's a start.
That's my answer.
Look, it's probably going to be bad. It's
Oof.
probably going to be bad. I'm probably going to like I won't be buying it on release or anything like that.
Yeah.
It probably will be better than Brawl and Smash 4, but it probably will still be worse than Melee.
Well, that's asking
And
for a lot.
It probably would be worse than PM for that matter. And then it would become a matter of why would you play this when you could play either of those games if you play either of those games already. I think that it would have to be really good for me to switch. I don't like playing two games at the same time. So if it was like kind of okay, but still not as good as Melee, then maybe I might play it for fun. But I don't even think it would be enough for me to like go out and buy a Switch for. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that that the Smash 4 guys will migrate anyway.
Yeah,
Because they haven't had their heart broken like Brawl did to the Melee players yet. So they might be a little bit more bright-eyed, bushy-tailed about that. I don't know whether or not they'll go back to playing Smash 4 if Smash 5 is not as good. I think you may end up getting some weird splintering effect of Smash 4 if Smash 5 is bad, where it would be kind of like what happened with Marvel 3 and Marvel 3 and Marvel Infinite, where Marvel Infinite was bad, but no one went back to Marvel 3, and so all those players just play something else. You know what I mean?
Well, I guess Dragon Ball Fighters kind of took over that 3v3 tag.
Yeah. Something better will come along that is worthy of it. So you could end up having it where Smash 5 comes out, and then suddenly more people are playing Melee and PM because they didn't like Smash 5, don't want to go back to Smash 4, and end up playing Melee and PM. So that's more likely.
A new Smash game is always good for like the older games, regardless.
Yeah, that's true.
Also, sorry, I just want to make a disclaimer on this show, guys. I want it to be known that it's not really filtered, so we don't really like Smash 4. If you don't like that, then no. I just want to.
I honestly gave. I think if we've
all
played
tried
Smash 4,
it.
Yeah, we all played it. I gave it a pretty honest shot, and I mean I don't know whether or not I've really like gone into detail about why I didn't like Smash 4. Although for some people it's kind of apparent why someone might not like it. But I think one of the most annoying things for me about the game was when I would go, like I would open up the game on my console at home, turn it on. I feel like there was just nothing I could do that, like, I feel like I couldn't practice the game. Like there was nothing to like entertain me on just an individual level of, oh, I'm going to practice this or I'm going to experiment with that. The game just already felt devoid of any of that at the beginning. And what was a lot of the technical stuff was like extremely technical from memory. Stuff like perfect pivots, and I don't know how relevant any stuff is actually in the current meta of Smash 4. But I know that was kind of what a lot of people were talking about at the time. But there was just this big gap between like the basic mechanics of the game. You're rolling and what was it? That was it. Like your basic mechanics of how to control a character, nothing in between, and then just extreme tech that people who played Melee wouldn't even bother with. So that's yeah. I got frustrated so many times with like just how defensively orientated the game was. It wasn't as bad as Brawl, but it was still bad enough that it felt like, again, part of what Brawl's problem was just poking at each other without feeling like, I don't know, it was just like the constant neutral game. It's like playing floaties constantly, but even floaties can combo each other pretty well in Melee. In Smash 4, it was just like playing like Puff Dittos.
Yeah. So
it's just
we all have our opinions on it. It's feel free to express it on what it's here for.
I don't think Smash 4 is that bad. I'm surprisingly positive about Smash Switch. I'm keen to see what they add. I'm not excited to see what characters they add because I thought about it. I'm like, there's no one they could add that would really excite me. Because it honestly, like, the character I'd be most excited for is if they added like Goku. It'd just be so funny. It'd just be so funny. So I've lost my train of thought. I'm just kind of curious, honestly, to see if they add directional air dodging back in.
Oh, that would be. I mean, that they need to introduce risk off stage again, because that was a lot of the fun factor of like, previous Smash games, where you were so vulnerable off stage. But in Smash 4, that threat level was gone, and I mean, I feel like they just forgot what was actually fun about Smash, which was like killing the other person. But they made them so hard to kill that there was just no fun to it anymore. You want to jump off stage and kill your opponent. That's the fun part.
They just made it feel
Magnet hands, exactly.
by removing the
magnet hands.
movement option. It just made it feel so clunky as well. You couldn't really move around them.
Watching the highest level of Smash 4 isn't too bad though. Like, it still feels like there's some semblance of movement, but it is just
Yeah, well, it feels like a lot of the combos and stuff, they don't feel as organic as they do in Melee.
They're just practice.
It's kind of like too intentionally inserted into the game by the developers or something. I don't know. There was something really weird about them.
Nah, it's just the minimal. There's no smash DI and there's minimal just general DI. So the combos were just throw, move, or not necessarily. I don't want to say throw, but like it's just move, move X, move X, move X, move X, and you might finish with move Y. So it's just like for Zero Suit, it's just like up air, up air, up air, up B. Mario, up tilt, up air, up air, up air, up B. Pikachu, up air, nair, etc. If you know what I mean. Like it's just the combo game wasn't unique.
I think the best thing that Nintendo could do is just not be stubborn about it, and then just shamelessly use their own mechanics from Melee and just import it directly on top of all their Smash 4 characters. I really liked Smash 4's cast. I think that was the best part about the game, is that I would be looking at it and be thinking, man, if there's going to be like a PM version of this game, I'd probably be down for it, because I do like the variety of casts. I could imagine myself playing lots of these different characters. And I think a lot of them would be really interesting if they had that kind of freedom of movement. But yeah, it feels like Nintendo are being very like it's like they don't want to associate themselves with Melee, so they're not willing to bring back those mechanics again.
Yeah, I feel
Which is
that
a
way.
shame because
I think give them one more chance. I'm giving them one more chance. They got one more shot.
Yeah, they've been going in the right direction in terms of like the Switch, everything out in the Switch. It's all good. So,
They didn't,
well, the Switch is
they
doing
didn't-
quite well.
Switch is great. Yeah.
I think it's unfair to say that they fucked Smash 4 up. It's not that. It's simplified, which is probably the biggest issue. But it's better than Brawl. It's closer to Melee than Brawl is. And like,
Yeah.
I think they're coming around to Melee a little bit at the very
So it
least.
was just the necessary step. Smash 4 was just the necessary step to make them come full circle again.
Yeah, because I think at the end of the day, you don't need a game as good as Melee for people to play it. You need a game close to Melee. You're not
Yeah.
going to get Melee 2. That's just the fact of life.
Yeah.
If you can get something closer, like directional air dodging, add dash dancing back in, like that's almost enough, honestly. Just those two things.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be that hard to. A lot of these mechanics like dash dancing and wave dashing, that
You don't
you
need
could just
wave dash.
easily. You could, but the thing is, like, you could just not have it look like an exploit. You could have it where it's its own. You could have it where wave dashing is a matter of holding Y and then pressing a direction, and it's like it's like a type of role where it's actually inside the game itself, and the characters have unique animations for their wave dash and stuff like that. And the, you press Y and you press left, and the character wave dashes left. So it's like simplified, but actually part of the game. So it doesn't mean, and same with dash dancing, they could have it where characters can dash dance, but it looks not like an exploit, where it looks like they've deliberately got this in the game now, and the characters animate in such a way that looks like they're, you know how it kind of looks silly when you dash dance and the character's just flipping around back and forth, it looks weird. But if the game had it where it looked smoother and as if it was part of the game intentionally, would be how I would do it if I were in charge.
Yeah, they're all plausible ideas.
Yeah, it's very tough. I don't think they're gonna fix it, but I'm just hoping. I got a bit of like when's the direct? Like 5 days, something like that.
Is it?
Fingers crossed. Yeah,
I'm still interested to see. I even though I'm so negative about it, I still wish it to be good. Like, I don't want it to fail for no reason at all. I'm just very
12.
skeptical. I'm very skeptical about it.
Yeah, I
Understandable.
think.
mean,
Yeah.
they've burnt you a couple of times.
Yeah.
It's midnight the night of June 12th.
Okay. Well, I think what burnt the hardest about Smash 4 is that there was literally nothing else on the Wii U to justify the cost of buying that console.
Yeah.
So it's not like I could go, oh, this game wasn't, I didn't get what I wanted. out of
That
this game, or
console
just for other
sucked.
reasons.
I can't
I think
believe.
Wii U is the worst console ever.
I can't believe I bought that and didn't buy a Switch. I was one generation too early.
I honestly think if we start this from, say, the original NES, it's the worst console.
Surely, original NES. There's some what about the Sega Dreamcast?
No, the Dreamcast. The Dreamcast
No way. The
is.
Dreamcast had a lot of good games on it.
I get my Segas mixed up. There's some shit Sega ones though. Surely,
Did they come out?
The Wii U is not the worst. It's up there. Don't get me wrong, but come on, it's got Breath of the Wild on it. That counts, even though it's not a Wii U
Yeah,
game.
but didn't they just undermine that by putting it on the Switch? Anyway?
Yeah, it runs better on the Switch.
Hey,
Yeah,
hey, they put Twilight Princess on the GameCube and the Wii, and it was better on the GameCube. So there you go. It
No,
wasn't
was it?
necessarily- Yeah, people
Wasn't on
think that it was on the GameCube.
Was
Twilight Princess.
Twilight Princess, was it? I thought
Yeah,
that
it
was
was.
what they did with Wind Waker, not Twilight Princess.
No, they
'Cause Wind Waker was
had
on
Wind
both.
Waker. They had Wind Waker on the Wii U. No, Wind Waker wasn't on the Wii. It was on the Wii U though.
What?
Yeah, you can look it up.
No, I don't agree. Maybe,
I think you
okay,
gotta-
whatever.
I think you
I
gotta-
mean, I've not played Twilight Princess, so I'm not gonna
Neither
to,
have I. I just
you know,
it was on the GameCube.
go in on that. But I'm pretty sure that Wind Waker was on GameCube for sure, because I've had it on GameCube. I know that at least. And then it came out on the Wii as well. Oh, okay, it was on the GameCube. Okay, yeah. I concede.
Oh god.
I've been told that the Wii version of Twilight Princess was the better one, but I've been told differently from other people, so I don't know.
Waggling, apparently. It was
Yeah, but-
about what it was. I'm mixing it up with Twilight Princess. Okay.
yeah.
The Wii U is better than, surely. I'd have to do my research, but I guarantee I can find one console that's better than, surely.
Nah.
Oh, but I mean, talking about like a mainstream console that like someone can
Anything
actually.
from like Sega counts. Sega counts. Anything Sega's made up until the Dreamcast counts as a mainstream console.
Well, what's come out after the Dreamcast? Oh,
Really?
you mean before the Dreamcast?
Genesis and
Yeah.
the Sega Saturn, wasn't it?
I mean, those
Oh, like before that.
those are hard to
I don't
compare.
know. I don't know. Wii U is shit, but it's shit. It's pretty shit. It's a bad console.
Yeah.
What a waste. Why did they make it? It was such a waste of time. The Wii already sucked. Why would you make a sequel to a shit console? Make it like
What?
Oh god. You should have seen Nintendo from when the Wii came out to like just before the Switch came out. It was just rock bottom for that company. My god.
yeah, but
They were like surviving off their DS, weren't they?
Yeah.
They had Wii money though. The Wii just raked them in so much cash. They could have literally just sold a pile of poo and they would have been fine, honestly.
Maybe if they didn't call it the fucking Wii U. Yeah.
Oh my, what are you trying to do? I mean, I guess they're trying to like, oh look, you liked the Wii. Here's the Wii U. This one's better. What they didn't know it wasn't. It wasn't even like graphically good.
No
Yeah,
way.
no, it's pretty average.
Oh, what a bad console. The Switch is good though. I
Shambolic.
think they fixed it with the Switch.
Yeah, shambolic. Busting that old phrase out. Gormless.
Yeah, I love
Gormless. Shambolic. Nice.
So do we want to spend like 10 minutes just talking just like getting questions from the chat, and then we'll wrap it up?
Yeah, we did talk about some stuff at the start, which might have been missed over.
Yeah, I want to go on that a bit. So
Actually-
Let's talk about that for a bit.
Yeah, I wanted to comment on about Armada at BAM.
Yeah.
Just
Okay,
quickly,
go for it.
because I had a few people ask me about, there's two topics. Let's talk about the funny one first. Armada being booed at BAM.
Oh,
Did
yeah.
you guys hear about this?
yeah, I saw the tweet.
I saw the tweets and the reactions and everything.
Yeah, that was really kind of it was funny because I can't remember who came up and told me about it at first, but when they told me, I was like, "What, are you sure that this happened? This sounds like it's made up, right?" Because first of all, like I couldn't imagine anyone like aggressively booing Armada, and also I couldn't imagine him overreacting that way. And then sure enough, I checked Twitter, and the overreaction was definitely there. The Armada had some pretty harsh words to say about his thoughts on the boo. And my first reaction when I heard about the boo was that surely it had to be a joke. Like if I had been booed,
Oh yeah.
while I was playing, I would have just presumed that they were booing me on behalf of like rooting for their friend that was thing, and it was not like in a malicious kind of way, right? Unless you would know if you were hated, basically.
Yeah.
You would know. You wouldn't know if you were hated to that extent that people were openly booing you while you're playing Melee. So yeah, I and knowing like Australian humor and stuff like that, I was pretty sure that it was more like a boo, you know what I mean? Like a really kind of deadpan boo that happened, I reckon.
Were they
So
saying
anyway, I
boo
checked the
or
tweet.
boo earns?
Yeah. But anyway, I checked the tweet. Sure enough, the Armada was upset about it. So I walked past Armada at one point, and I was like, "Oh, yeah." I was talking to him about something else, and I was like, "Oh, I heard about the booing." And I didn't say like what my opinion was because I wanted to see how he would kind of follow on from that sentence.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Yeah, it was really." The guy who booed came up and apologized, but it's really disappointing, and I just don't want Melee or esports or whatever to have that in it at all. Like it's just something that you just rather not see, and it really sucks to have come all this way and la la la. The thing is that the whole time, and I said to him, I was like, I'm pretty sure they would joke. Like, yeah, it sucks that that you did that, but knowing that like the way that people are here, I'm pretty sure it was a joke. And it was just kind of like a joke that went over his head, or like the culture clash, or I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
But there was something there that it was such a mild, like, you know, slight against him, and then he kind of blew it completely out of proportion. Honestly, it was just a matter of, wow, suck it up. So I don't really have any defense of Armada in that case. I think he completely overreacted to something, and then to go onto Twitter and like complain about it seemed a bit, I don't know.
I think
a
it's
bit
very.
childish as well.
I think it's quite representative of Armada. He's the kind of person just. But
Yeah,
I think we talked about this.
It's like
before.
good intentions.
Yeah.
It's good intentions, but it's like kind of wimpy at the same time, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's just how he is. From reading his tweets and stuff, he's always got something to say.
Well, it just wasn't smart by him because, you know, that affects us. You know, like if these people are like, I want to come to Australia, they see that tweet, they're like, oh, these guys are pieces of shit, and I'm not going to come.
Well,
It probably won't, but he hasn't like rectified it or anything. He never rectified the tweet, so that's the lasting impression a lot of people are going to get.
Yeah,
it's
and
kind
the other thing about Armada as well is that, and this was for Chu too. Actually, they were both in the same boat. And this is nothing against. Now, this I am like making defenses for them, because I can kind of understand why this happened the way it did, but they were really inaccessible. They were very hard to pin down at any moment. And there was no time, it felt like there was no time made to actually have a normal human interaction with these people. When Armada first arrived in Australia, the first thing that he did was stream at Don B's house, which is fine, but there was the Salty Suite happening on at the same time. And what was really weird about it was that at the Salty Suite, which was really packed, by the way, it was a good Salty Suite, much better than the last year's one. At the Salty Suite, where all the fun was happening, literally on the screens, because it was at a bar that has like esports bar, so it's got all the Twitch streams around the walls, right? The little TV screens with Twitch streams going. Was Armada just doing his regular Peach beating up a Fox level 1 Fox CPU? And it's like, here we all are, like, being part of the experience kind of thing, and then he's just kind of at someone else's house, not. And I can understand, I traveled so long and I'm tired and blah blah blah, but it kind of like goes against the whole idea of why you traveled so far in the first place. You know what I mean? Like, why would you travel so far to then not attend the thing that you came to be there for? You're tired, yeah, but you just have to like push through that and then just do it anyway. You know what I mean? Like you just got to be able to push past that barrier and do, like, you know, do the thing that you came there to do. I don't know. I feel like if you kind of come to Australia, there's a bigger expectation on how you can't just come here and do what you want. I know that sounds really kind of like you must give yourself to us kind of thing. You kind of do. Like, what was the point of you coming then? People wanted to talk to you. People wanted to like play games with you, and then you just made yourself like impossible to have access to. Yeah, it was just kind of weird. It would just totally not be the way that I would do it if I was if it was the other way around.
Yep.
Then I would.
It's hard because it is his own money, though. Like
it's his own money and it's his own like personal freedom, of course. But I still think there's an expectation of what you should do when you go. Not only when you go to another country, but you go to another country that's obviously starved of people coming to the country in this game. Other than that, though, like the very few, I got to play maybe like 3 games with Armada, and I got to talk to him for a little bit, and he was obviously really nice and everything like that, and that was great. But it was just like, I don't know. It was almost like they weren't even there.
That sucks.
Except they rocked up and won the tournament. The golf came first.
Well, I guess from what I hear, at least he made it up afterwards, right? Going out drinking and all that stuff. getting rowdy.
Getting rowdy.
I don't know. I don't know if you've ever been jet lagged, but that sucks. Being jet lagged. It's
Oh
an
yeah,
awful
and,
feeling.
and the flight from Sweden to Australia would just be cancer.
Yeah, because I think he landed on the Thursday, right? Or even like Friday morning. I don't remember. But he landed pretty.
Janet said had the same issue with BAM 7 where they mostly just hung out with the boys most of the weekend. I'm guessing it was a lot better with Zoo at Dyad. Yeah, I think everyone had that experience with at BAM 7 of like
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was
low access.
may as well
to
have
the,
not been there, to be honest.
Yeah,
Because they were just hanging
Zoo
with
and-
like the big guys and everything.
Yeah, with the case of Zoo, like there was definitely a lot of time to talk to Zoo. But to play him was a different story, actually. I think I played one game against Zoo.
I think I played.
And I housed him. I housed him, and I played like one game against Zoo because it wasn't like he was quite busy at the time as well with Aiden.
Yeah,
They
he
were on
was.
Smash GG on their computers a lot, and they were like, having to fix up tournaments and stuff. They were basically working while they were here, and they didn't actually play that much. Or Zoo didn't actually. Like I said, I played like one, maybe 2 games against Zoo, and yeah.
I don't
But
think that's the worst.
we definitely opened it up for a social element when we had the walk. When we, you know what I mean? Like you could have a whole day with them, and they were a little bit. I know, like Zoo and Aiden were totally up for it. Aiden was over the moon with this kind of attention, but MacD was kind of like, oh, do we have to? Like when I said, I think that we said, oh, we've got to go to some. What was it? Oh, you know how we had the bar thing? It was like our salty sweet.
Yeah.
Remember how we had the salty sweet thing? And MacD was
yeah.
like, do we have to go? And I was like, well...
It's just, I get why. Like, you know, it's just like, you don't want to. Because imagine if you were introverted and you just like, you know, you don't like being around all these people and you just go into this place where there's like 50 people that are going to want to talk to you and everything. It would be pretty... And you're jet lagged as well, because I think that was the day they came in. Or maybe the day before that. But it's like, it wouldn't be the best experience, but yeah, he ended up coming and everything in the end anyway. So
yeah, and there were people there that wanted to meet him, and
it was like Zoo was very cool. He came and talked to a lot of people as well. Like it wasn't you had to go up to him and talk to him. He might come to you and talk to you. So I know he did that to me. I was just lying down because I was beat, and he just came and he just started talking to me about like what happened with the summit and all that shit as well. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
he's a very social guy.
It's actually funny because most people walked away from that experience saying that Aiden was the best thing about that.
Aiden's great.
That those 3, and it was kind of funny because no one knew he was basically even coming before he came, and then when they left, it was just like, man, Aiden was great. And then still, Aiden does work for our community in terms of like he rocked up to BAM and talked it up. He did really good commentary and stuff like that, and goes out of his way to learn about the history of Perth Smash so that he can talk about it on stream. He talks up Spud. He tries to get Spud to these tournaments and stuff like that. Aiden is like our international ambassador that we were talking about. He's got our back in that way.
Yeah, he's definitely useful, like internationally for us, especially for Spud. Like he's taken Spud to Don't Park on the Grass. I think there's always another tournament down the line that he'll get Spud to. So.
If there's anyone that believes in Spud more than anyone else, it's Aiden. He has like a man boner for him.
I think basically what I'm ultimately saying about the experience that not just with Armada and Chidat, but it's the same thing with Zoo and MacD, and the same thing with the BAM 7 lot that came, is that I think more effort needs to be made to both maybe prepare the person that's coming for an expectation on what is likely to happen, but also to actually give time for people to actually interact with these people outside of the tournament environment where there's not. It's very hard to talk to. Like they're obviously in the zone at that point. They're about to play Shootout. They're about to play Armada, whatever. They're concentrating on their next game. They don't have time for, or they may not be interested in these kind of conversations in the moment. But a casual social gathering is not a hard ask. It could just be a matter of, you know, a walk like we did. So, I mean, walk is very Perth specific because that was a national park that we went to, barbecue and everything. Like a barbecue would be a good idea. You know what I mean? That's a great idea. Come to Australia and you have like a
we
day
did
where
that.
we just have like a barbecue.
That's great.
And yeah, you can just sit and talk to someone like a regular person.
Yeah,
Anyway, that's my thoughts on that.
No, I agree. I think that's the truth. Because like I just think about BAM 7, which is the tournament that I felt was most affected by internationals. And it's just like they were there, but at the same time, it really didn't feel like they added anything to the tournament outside of the top 8. The top 8 was really exciting to watch. Like watching high level melee live consistently was really cool. But at the end of the day, like I think I talked to Mango. I think that was it. I mean, at the time, I was a lot more nervous, and I had that whole like, oh, this person is way better than me, and I don't deserve to talk to them kind of thought process. But at the same time, even if I wanted to, I still don't think I would have talked to that many more of them because they will hang out with each other, and then like the Vic guys kind of had them off in their own corner. So they were very unapproachable.
Yeah,
like for the most part.
I had a different experience with that. Well, I think I might have just been fortunate to like run into a few of them when they were. All the times I did talk to them, they were like sitting down watching matches in the crowd, and
just snuck up.
Yeah, like I just because like there was all these empty seats, so I was like, well, it looks like people are either leaving them alone or not talking to them for some reason. So fuck it, dude. I'll just go.
Probably a few people that.
Yeah, they probably felt the same way, like, oh, they're too good to talk to me and stuff like that.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't have that barrier now.
It was definitely an effort
I don't think melee skill is relevant to.
Not relevant at all, but it's definitely an effort to go out of my way to like find these people and talk to them.
It's hard because then like you don't want to. It's
yeah, because you don't. Maybe they want some alone time. You don't know if they're.
Yeah.
But I think it's a personality thing, really. Like, I wouldn't expect Ahmad to be like really social or anything like that, unless he had a few drinks or something beforehand.
Yeah.
And honestly, that whole tweet stuff we talked, it's like it's a misunderstanding of sarcasm, right? Kind of like.
Yeah.
It's hard to get the Australian view on that.
Yeah, that's.
But it was. I mean, I mean, you think this is kind of like a negative of Twitter more than anything, the way that presence of Twitter has affected Ahmad's reaction to that situation was that, oh, something happened to me, better tweet to the world about it before I kind of like take a moment to absorb what just happened and really think about whether or not it actually mattered. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you wait a day on it and then see whether or not you actually think it's worth tweeting about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's true. You should. It's like Leffen's tweets. Like you got to stop. Like after you lose and you're salty, don't go on Twitter. That's not where you need to go. You just need to relax. He should have like a system, an app in place where anytime Smash GG inputs a loss for him, Twitter is blocked on his phone for like 3 hours.
Yeah.
I think that would fix his issues because I don't know. I don't want to get into Leffen. I don't want to talk about Leffen today. He annoys me too much.
Yeah, let's fuck it. It's not worth talking about.
Is anyone else want to talk about? You had something else you wanted to talk about, Josh, right? Or have I?
Well, I was just I was gonna ask.
You had something.
This is we're going back to BAM back to the results that happened.
Yes.
So we talked about this off stream, the I don't give a fuck mentality, right? So let's take it from the start of when you actually started implementing this mentality.
Okay,
Mind talking to us?
Yeah. So I so when Spud came to Perth, not long after, it kind of became a mission to beat Spud, and both Kara and I had already won a set against him, but I think both of us would kind of agree that like it was. If you win one set early and then never win another set again, it basically means that you quickly downloaded it, and Spud kind of like had us under wraps pretty early. So it was a kind of a matter of like, let's see if we can try and beat him again, or to see if so he's not breaking away from us in that. And I got really tunnel visioned on trying to beat Spud, which means that in order to beat Spud, I had to beat Karu. So my focus became very much on mainly Spud, but also I knew that I would always have to, or a lot of the time I would have to beat Karu in order to get to that stage. There was one tournament in particular, my worst tournament ever, where I was so tunnel vision that I was not paying it, like I didn't take seriously enough the matches before that, and I lost against. I played against Miguel. Yeah, I can't. Yeah. I lost against Max first. Yeah, I lost against Chafos in winners, and when I was playing, I was just like, I think against Max, I was just kind of writing it off of, I made a lot of silly mistakes, costly SDs, and la la la. But then when I was playing against Miguel, because it was in losers, I was starting to get a real playing not to lose mentality. He actually won the first game, and then in the second game was like really close, like down to the last hit. And I was so invested in this game that after I had won the second game, I like clutched it out. I went and tried to fist bump him because I thought I presumed that I had won, and so it was kind of embarrassing actually, because it was just like he just looked at me like, what's going on? And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. I thought it was over. I was so involved in that game, and I thought it was like the last game that I played it and like that, but it wasn't it. And then in the third game, I was playing even more. I'm gonna lose. And then I lost. And I'd never lost to Miguel before, and I hadn't lost to Chapos in a while. And I got 8th, was it?
7th.
Yeah, 7th.
Your worst placing ever.
Yeah, I've never even gotten 4th before. I've never even gotten 4th before. So it was like I'd only ever gotten 1st, 2nd, or 3rd.
Even in the GMs, you got 5th and 2nd. So yeah, 5th and 2nd. So that was your worst placing in Perth ever.
Yeah. And then I got 7th, and it was just like I wasn't even that mad actually. After I lost, it was kind of like a moment of a bit bewildered, kind of amused at the same time, like that it even happened. And I just kind of laughed it off and just thinking, man, I kind of deserve that, because I just got so caught up in trying to beat the people above me, that I didn't really give the respect to the people that I typically beat. And, I played nervous and shit, and they beat me. So, after that, I was like, no, I've got to like try and, well, I've already experienced now, this kind of a loss, so it's not like, it will affect me as much again if it does happen again, unless it kept happening again, which thankfully it didn't. I don't know how, if I'd have a different opinion about that. But I figured that I need to just kind of let it go in that way, and just not worry about the result so much, and winning, and just focus on playing. And so when I went to OHN, and also it became easy, because every time I would get into grand finals against Spud, it was kind of good practice for this, because the expectation, especially as time went on, was that I wasn't going to win anyway, and he would typically win convincingly. So it was very easy to be in that kind of mindset where I was like, okay, I don't have to play nervous at all. There's no expectation for me to win, and so I can just play. And I would often do quite well, actually, much better than I would do in friendlies, where I'd take the odd game and stuff like that. And so I thought when I went to OHN last time that I would do the same thing, where I would just walk into it and be willing to come last and be happy with it, basically. Like, if I could just, like, if I had been beaten, that I would be able to turn to the player next to me who'd beaten me and tell them how much of a good job they did for beating me, how much work they must have put in to have done that, and then, let it be their story and not mine, and kind of move on from that. And I just kind of played like that. And then thing is that it actually gets easier to play like that the further you get into the bracket, because obviously the most crushing loss you can have is against the worst possible player, because that's the I don't know, the most upsetting, the one that's going to be talked about the most humiliating, however you want to put it, right? If you were to be that invested with the result. So as you get closer to someone, you typically how it goes in a bracket is that earlier on you'll verse someone that's like, you know, if we're talking approaching top 64 or top 32 and stuff, you'll play a player that's about 2 steps below you. So you should comfortably beat them, but there's a chance that if you're playing really terribly, you'll could possibly lose. Then the next person is usually the person who is below you by a stage, and you could lose to them again if you played nervously. This would be like the Miguel loss. If you should beat them like you've always beaten, but if you're playing like with that mentality, there's always the possibility of losing that way. And then after that person is the one that's really close to you in level. The probably the matchup that people talk about when they project through the bracket and they stop at a certain point. They don't look past a certain point. They stop at a certain point and they go, that's the person that I need to beat because that's the person that's most closely matched to you. That's usually when the most nerves and the most slippery hands can come out. But usually at that point, it's like this is where it helps the most because you should be able to just turn to that person and congratulate them on like beating you and then being able to say it didn't work for me today at the end of it. I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen if you lost to that person, right? You just say you lost to them and that's the end of the story. So why do you have to put so much stock into it? And then if you beat that person, then the mentality of not caring goes into overdrive because everything else just seems like bonus points from there. The person that you're versing is like, feeling the pressure way more than you are. And yeah, it just, at no point do you ever have that kind of anxiety. I used to have it where I couldn't even sleep the night before because I would be thinking so hard about like the matchup, or I'd be like trying to find videos on YouTube about how that person plays, or watching matchups of that particular matchup I was about to play, and kind of like trying to stuff it, like cramming. Basically, it was like cramming for that particular match. But you still forget that you have to play all these matches before that, and that's what causes a lot of the anxiety as well. Is that you put all this preparation to play against a certain player, and now you're starting to panic that you're not even going to get to that player because you're struggling against the one that you're meeting at the moment. So, I actually saw this happen in reverse when I played Sock at the tournament, and he had been putting in so much work to play against me. He knew that he was coming up against me in the bracket, and he was practicing the Peach matchup, was doing net play with Rainbow and all that all the time. Maybe he was watching my videos as well. I don't know. I would kind of guess that he might have been based on how much he was saying he was putting into it. At the tournament, he kept coming up to me all the time and he was talking to me about it. You know how I was saying I wasn't even looking at the bracket? It was hard to try and take him out of the bracket when he was reminding me about it all the time. And so he kept saying, I can't wait for our game. Or, I hope our game starts soon, rah, rah. And then when we actually got to the point of playing, he was just a nervous wreck. Like he couldn't control his nerves. And I think he was talking with Kai or something before that, and what he could do to try and calm himself down. And then I just had to play like baseline. He just kind of beat himself by doing SDs or making mistakes or, just playing nervously. So I saw it from the other side, if you know what I mean, what happens when you play, you invest yourself so much in that. And it compounded where he lost to me. And then because he had invested so much time into me, he lost his next game directly after in losers to someone he was I'd seated much higher than. So yeah, he was very kind of crushed after that because obviously he performed much worse than he did. He had aspirations to beat me, but couldn't beat a person round 2 losers or something like that because that's the kind of effect it can have on you mentally, where your play suffers as a result.
Yeah, I felt like that happened to Sora as well, right? He got crushed by Mata, and then he lost to Rainbow, who I don't know what their recent score is, but I think Sora would have the record over Rainbow recently, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
I don't think they have played that much though. I think Sora got better, but I don't think the Sora Rainbow matchup actually happened that much since. So it's just kind of implied that Sora is better than Rainbow now because of his results relative to Rainbow's. But in terms of the head-to-head, I'm not sure. You'd need a Sydney person to confirm that on.
Yeah, fair enough. We'll wait for J-Nuts. But yeah, going back to that, it's a very important lesson to adopt, right? Especially early in your career, because Sock's still a pretty new player, right? And he's
only 15, I think. So
yeah, the way you described it makes it sound like he's probably like what. I don't think I've heard a player who's like crumbled as badly as what you've described.
I'm sure it happens to a few people. Maybe it's just like, I mean, more closely related to that story because he was obviously talking to me about it so much, and the person that I met in the bracket. There's probably other people that had a similar experience, more than likely. Or whenever you hear of a player being upset, it's probably a factor with something like that.
Yeah.
That took part. But it's really powerful as well because it helps you focus more on why you play the game and the enjoyment of the game instead. And so even if you lose, that enjoyment, like if you go into there thinking, I really like this game, I really enjoy playing this game, and isn't it really great that we are in a position where we can even have this tournament in the first place, that, we're lucky enough to be able to fly to the other side of the country to participate in a video game tournament and all this kind of thing. And when you think about all that instead, you're just in such a good mood when you're about to start to play that just. Meanwhile, the person's sweating like this, and you're just like, all right, let's go. You know what I mean? Let's have some fun.
I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah,
it's the most wholesome strategy I've ever heard. It is true though. Like you're just like, at the end of the day, win or lose, I'm going to be the same person.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
nothing's going to change. I might win a bit of money, but that's not why I came to this. So.
It also means that if you did lose, then you're going to be a great loser. Do you know what I mean? Like you're going to have a much more positive attitude when the loss happens. You're not going to be, aggressive towards the person that lost. You're not going to be making excuses or, saying, I only lost because of blah, blah, blah. Like that's not going to affect you in that way. So
it's a bit tricky, that specific one, because at the same time, if you set yourself up for loss, then you can trick your mind into not playing to win almost. Not intentionally, it's going to be subconscious, but there is like a fine line that you can draw. I do agree. Like I think, throwing a fit when you lose is it's just bad for everybody around you and you as well, because everyone's going to think,
I think you can do both. I think you can have this kind of that you don't, and it sounds kind of like a contradiction, but I think you can have the idea that you don't care, but also that you're playing to win at the same time. Because I always play the same way, so it doesn't affect me. I don't change the way I play ever. So whether it's just the mentality of how I'm going to be dealing with the loss if it did happen. And so what I do is always going to be the same. It's just kind of the mentality going. I don't know if that makes sense.
I get it.
I feel the same way.
No.
I was just gonna say, you're at an advantage. I shouldn't say advantage, but like the way you've always kind of been this like play to win, or you play to win any match, win or lose. Like it doesn't matter if it's a friendly, it doesn't matter if it's a tournament. You're always going to play to win, and that's been ingrained in you. And these people these people that aren't like that, they'll play friendlies and they'll mess around and all that. It'd be a little bit harder to do what you're doing. Not impossible, and you can obviously learn it. But I do think like putting in your mind, I'm going to lose. I'm going to lose. Like, how do I prepare for a loss? Could subconsciously put you in a position to go, or I'm going to lose kind of thing. Like, it can lead 1-to-1. You know what I mean? Not necessarily, but I do think it could be risky.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think there's like if you're going to compete, there's this kind of an expectation on what competing is about. So you can't really be shocked when your strategy doesn't work when it's not conducive to being competitive and you know it. It's not like you don't know that there's a difference between someone who doesn't know that they're playing properly and someone who knows that they're not playing properly and then expecting to win at the same time. So it sounds like that particular person that you're imagining of wanting to play a certain way, but then trying to also use this mentality at the same time, like has kind of an immature approach to competitive games in the first place. That to expect to be able to play. Yeah, to be able to expect to play in a certain way that is like obviously silly in some way or another, and then expect to win is not going to work.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
It's there's so many layers to competitive mindset and whatnot. It just goes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the best things about the game, actually, and what a lot of people talk about is that the whole process of just trying to be good at the game is like it's just, you just learn a lot about the competitive mindset and also about like your own. I don't want to be too cheesy about it, but you basically learn about yourself in the process of like how you cope with those kind of those situations. Like you might not know going into like if you never played something competitive before, you might not know how you deal with a pressure situation like that. Do you get nervous in front of a crowd? You might not know until you've played it before, or whether or not you're playing in a top 8 situation versus playing in another situation with a crowd or people cheering for you, or people cheering against you, or all kinds of things like that. So losing to someone that you are better than, how do you cope in that situation? That's all sorts of things like that you find out about yourself.
Yeah, I know I've definitely done a lot of growing
learned
up to play Melee for sure. I mean,
I'm definitely a different person coming in, or now than when I came in.
It's something you learn through any competitive environment, but like Smash is just another way to do it.
You definitely learn quicker in an individual competitive environment versus a team one. It's a lot different.
Yeah.
But Melee is very. You don't have coaches or anything. You're all on your own.
Yeah, team sports or team games. That's just on a whole other level, especially especially if you're talking about a game where you can't just like superstar your way, where one person can do like carry, multiple other people. I've got Dota on my mind at the moment, but Dota is a game, for example, that it's very much about the unit of 5 people working really, really, really well together, and that's because then not only do you have to deal with your own way of coping with all these same problems, but then understanding how other people cope with them and not getting frustrated when someone else is dealing with it in a way that isn't how you would do it, but it's just as good for them or something. You know what I mean? Like you might be thinking, oh, why don't you just do it like this, or why can't you just get over it, or whatever? But that's just not how that person works, and they need a different way of with it.
It's a whole another beast that we'll have to cover another time.
I mean, I don't think it's really worth covering team sports in a Melee.
Well, I mean,
even teams Melee is.
You can get carried.
I mean,
Spud's won a teams tournament with every person in Perth at this point, so
it's something interesting to talk about.
And the internationals definitely prove that they were able to carry because they still came first and second, despite having teammates that were I think there were quite a few good players that were confident that that those internationals were not going to come first in the teams, because a team of 2 good Australian players should be able to beat them, but they didn't. They were able to carry them, so yeah, that was pretty interesting. Kind of disappointing at the same time.
I guess.
Alright.
Is there anything else you guys want to talk about, or should we go to questions?
Let's go to questions.
Yeah, let's go to questions.
All right. questions. If anyone's got some questions, put them in the chat.
I saw Benjo's one, but I missed it. Can you repeat that, Benjo? Sorry. I know you wrote like a 200-word essay, but try and make it a bit smaller, will you?
I've got it. So, have you guys talked about the importance of best of fives in friendlies to improve tournament mentality, and how beating someone doesn't mean you can beat them once, but instead 3 times on different stages?
Ooh.
I'm going to post that again.
It's a very good mentality going in about the best of 3 or best of 5. When you're might be playing against someone, how I was talking about those matches where you're playing against someone who's that one step below you. It's very important to remind yourself of that factor, the best of 3 or the best of 5, because you're going to have to play, especially in the best of 5, you're going to have to play the enemy character on their best stage, which means that they are maximizing their advantage at some point in that set. The best stage, their character is going to be played, and it's if you are at all close, it's going to be difficult for you to win. That's just how it is. So knowing that and being able to just kind of shrug off the loss can help you get through. It also kind of it can put a lot of stress on the first game, because you don't want to have to play on their counter pick as the last game. But yeah, it's definitely a good mentality to remember that you're allowed to you lose that game 2 on their counter pick, that you're still at that advantage anyway. It's good to remember. What was the other part of that question?
So yeah, best of 5s in friendlies to improve tournament mentality, and how beating someone doesn't mean you can beat them once, but instead 3 times on different stages.
Yeah. So about the friendlies being played as a best of 5. Personally, I've never done that before. I've never really. I think I've very, very, very rarely I've had someone ask if we can play like a quick, best of 5 before that. Personally, I don't think I get anything out of it. I pretty much. You should have you should go into every matchup in advance knowing what stages you're going to be picking. You don't want to be leaving that decision to the last moment, because you want to be conserving that mental energy for the actual game itself, rather than spending ages thinking about, but if I do this and on this stage this character has it. Yeah, well, I don't know why you're leaving that to the last. That's like leaving your homework to the last minute. You should already know. I'm playing against the Marth. I'm going to be picking Dreamland. If I don't have Dreamland, then I'm picking whatever. You should know straight away where you're going to be going in these situations. And so when you take that part out of it, I don't know how much exactly you're getting out of a best of 5, because by saying that you're practicing a best of 5, it assumes that that somehow the stages are important, or you're trying to bring the stage selection as part of this practice. But I don't know if that really matters that much if you already know what stages you're going to be picking anyway. Usually, I mean, if anything, I would say that randomly picking stages is better, because it just gives you a lot more practice on all the different combinations of everything you'd have. So I don't know. I'm not entirely sold on the best of 5 being practice.
I personally think I just like doing one at the end of a session, just to kind of have that mentality. And plus, by that point, you're kind of worn out, so which is more reflective of a tournament atmosphere, at least late into a tournament. So I do like using a best of 5 to end a friendly session. Mm-hmm. Gabe said playing best of 5s and having some incentive. Hang on.
Yeah, Billy I just read his. Billy told me. Yeah.
Yeah, Billy told me best of 5 friendlies would be super good, considering we have no tournaments where we play with something on the line. I mean, I don't really think that's true, because you're not playing for anything in the line, really. No one's going to go and say, hey, I beat, me and Jason played some friendlies and I beat him in the best of 5. I'm not going to go around saying, oh, Jason, about that time I beat you in that best of 5 in friendlies. Like, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I understand the concept. Yeah, I understand the concept. I I mean, if anything, maybe putting like more as just like a gesture than anything than actually than anything else, but like putting like a money on the line, maybe like $1.
I
Let's
don't
have a
get
dollar money match kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just as a gesture
Even
if there
then.
was something in it. Yeah, even then, it's like not really that big a thing. Usually, I mean, because we're such a small community, if you're trying to like establish yourself, or you're trying to like break past a certain person, you're trying to get from, you know, you want to be from 7th to 6th best or whatever, then we can usually tell. It's like if you played Spud, he would be able to rank you for you. Do you know what I mean? Like, he would just tell you you're here. Yeah, they can just tell. Like, especially a better player can just automatically tell you with pretty decent judgment that you are likely to be between these or two players, or you're about this good.
Yeah.
And also usually, I mean, I don't know if Spud thinks along these lines as well, but I'm pretty sure he does, considering what we've talked about before. Is that you can normally see the trajectory of that person as well, whether or not they're on a path that seems like they're going to actually get better, or whether or not they're playing in a way that they're capping themselves out pretty hard and they're unlikely to actually improve from where they are now. So that's obviously a little bit more awkward to ask that question of, do you think I'm good at this? I'm going to be good at this game, because if I didn't think you were, then it's going to be hard for me to say that you're not. But like, yeah. But I'd still be able to tell you around like how good you are compared to everyone else, and that's basically where we're at anyway. And everyone kind of knows it. Everyone
In Perth at the moment, which is a bit sad.
Yeah.
Jason, you want to add anything to that question, or do you want to move on?
Nah, I don't really have much experience with that kind of thing, so I doubt I'd have anything insightful to say.
At the end of the day, I think doing one at the end of a session isn't bad. Maybe one at the start just to start it. But if you do it non-stop, you're going to end up playing on the same stages all the time. And it's going to become, you're going to get too used to it. So throwing one in is good, but don't rely on them. All right, so next question. I'll do them in chronological order for the good ones anyway. What have you learned about yourself through Smash? This is for everyone. So who wants to start?
I need a moment. I need a moment to think. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big one. We won't go through everything we've learned, because I feel like that would take years.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll start with something simple. I learned like my love of psychology and like the mental aspect of Melee really turned me onto psychology, which was something I didn't really care for too much earlier in my life. And it made me pick psychology in university, which I've really been enjoying. And I guarantee you, if I didn't play Smash, I never would have done that.
Okay,
that's it's not a deep thing, but it's something.
I think I would actually say something similar, at least, that I share that kind of appreciation for psychology, or the psychology of competitiveness. In terms of anything else, I think I have an appreciation of the kind of work that people have to put in to be good at anything. Like whenever you see people who are good at anything, literally anything. And I think it's really unfortunate that a lot of people have this tendency to mask how much effort they're putting into something, that they have to underplay how much time they spend practicing or studying or whatever. And it's kind of like, it seemed to be better if you were good at something without trying. I think is really kind of, I can understand what the appeal is, but I think it's really harmful to the people who take on that idea, because those kind of people who think that they could do that as well will get very frustrated when they realize that they can't, and it can turn out to be like have a very negative impact on the way that you might see yourself. You might be playing and you'd be like, man, how come I can't get as good as such and such can? And they put in just as much effort, and I'm putting in just as much effort and not getting results. And it's usually because the person that you're comparing yourself to has done a lot more work than they're letting on. Usually far more work that then they're letting on, in like a ratio of they've put in, 50 times more of the work than you've put in so far. So it's like, yeah, you have to be careful of those people that might kind of sell it that way, or even people who aren't, kind of just ignoring that factor, because it's more convenient to ignore how much effort someone has put into something, because then it makes it seem more achievable to you. You don't want to have to think about thousands of hours of work that came before it, because it puts you off actually having to do the thousands of hours of work yourself to actually be that good. So yeah, I think it's like an appreciation of knowing how much work someone else might have put into whatever they're good at, but also having a more critical eye to people who are deceptive in that way.
What about you, Jason? What have you learned?
I was reading through Matt De Cruz's one. I think I'm pretty similar. In a lot of facets of life, I do skip fundamentals a lot, and apparently obvious everything I do. Like it's taken me 3 years to just come around to Melee, to like start finally feel like I'm doing pretty decent at the game before I took a break. But I noticed that a lot after I started playing Melee. It's like I'm too impatient with, and that's going off Quetz's answer. Sometimes I'm just too lazy to put in the maximum amount of time to get like really good at something. So I either just stop doing it, or I skip a few steps to try and get at least above average to make myself feel adequate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think you always have to have your finger on the pulse about whether or not the amount of effort that you're putting in is worth it, to put it kind of plainly. Like, you don't want to be doing it to a point where you're not enjoying the game anymore, is kind of what I'm getting at. If you're pushing and pushing and pushing, and you're like, God, I hate this thing, like I'm not enjoying it, all the games are, the world is grey all of a sudden, you know what I mean? Like there's no life in this game. Then you may need to rethink about whether or not it's even you should be playing the game in the first place, or having just a refreshing your reasons for playing the game in the first place. Maybe you're playing it for the wrong reasons, because some reasons are bad reasons. Like if you're playing the game to beat one particular person, I'm practicing to get better than such and such, then you're going to be in for a very rough ride with that mentality, because that person may be having the same kind of growth rate that you are, and you may be waiting a long time, or that person might stop playing, and then suddenly your goal is meaningless in comparison. Or there's also kind of you're basing your goal on someone else, and that person is a variable that you don't want to be hinging that on. So those kind of thoughts of why you're playing the game, you should constantly be assessing it as you're playing, and that will help you. I'm looking at Pretzel Sauce's question of how do you keep a healthy balance between training and wasting time in the game. That's kind of what we're talking about here. Is if you're training and you're getting to a point, there's always going to be kind of a bit of drudgery with practicing anything, right? There's a repetition. But if you're getting to that point where you're really just not liking any part of the game, and it feels like you're just not enjoying it, then it may be more time to start integrating more of the time wasting element of the game, of just enjoying it, having fun with it, and realizing why you play the game again.
I always found, for me personally, when I was getting sick of like the grinding aspect, practicing shit on shield and all that, I would mess around in a kind of constructive way. Like I would go into debug mode and just see some weird things, like see what frame I can get out of a power shield, and like all these little things like that. That's because even though I was still messing around, I was learning things at the same time. That's the kind of way that I balanced it. Then eventually it was all too much for me.
Yeah.
But
what made you I remember you when we played the other day, you commented about when you said when you looked at Fox on the character select screen, you know, the disappointment and la la la. Do you want to elaborate on what led to that and
What led to that?
how you feel about that now?
I think it's slowly, like, I don't think I'd ever return to the point where I was before, but it's slowly that kind of feeling towards Fox is fading a little bit. I think the resentment to the character and to what he represents to me is always going to be there a little bit. But he's just, the last string where I played Melee from when I got back into it after BAM 9 till OHN, as you said before, I was playing for the wrong reasons. I was just playing kind of to, it doesn't sound like the wrong reason, but I was just kind of playing to get better in the worst way possible, if that makes any sense. And it eventually burnt me out really badly, like really badly. So as before, I stopped playing Melee because there weren't tournaments and I didn't feel like once I got to the Tom level, and then there was you and Carlos and Spud. It's just that next jump is so big compared to the previous jumps that I was like, is this worth it for me? And I was umming and ahhing about it. But then after OHN, I don't know, I just came to this conclusion that there's different things in life I want to pursue. And it's hard to explain. So that's why I stopped. But then Melee, the reason, I just want to say this correctly. The reason I dislike Fox is because Fox reminds me of the things I hate about Melee, which is like, you know, the salt and the, you know, playing to win and making other people feel bad when you beat them and things like that.
Yeah.
It just frustrates. Fox is frustration. If to answer Peanuts' question, Fox represents frustration and disappointment and everything negative. He doesn't represent the good things about Melee, which is why I play other characters when I play the game. But he's slowly coming down there.
Yeah, but I think it was important because you realized that there was some kind of like you were not enjoying the game anymore, and you needed to make that reassessment of why you weren't enjoying the game, and then if you were to come back to the game, then you're kind of in like a win-win situation where you may not end up coming back to the game because of the reasons that you stated. Or if you do come back to it, you'll come back to it for better reasons. So ultimately, the decision to, you know, make that assessment is much better for you because it's, you know, you're going to be quite well off either way.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the end of the day, like, I can still, by not playing Fox for now, I can still enjoy Melee. I still enjoy Melee. I still like talking about it, and I still like playing it to some degree just for fun. But playing Fox isn't fun at the moment. I think if I did end up coming back to it, I would play Fox, but we'll see what happens. I don't want to say anything. Does anyone have anything more to add to those two questions, Pretzel's question or Peanuts' question? Otherwise, we'll move on to one more. Get another
one. Yeah, that's the other thing. every character has their frustrations for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, yeah. I'm sure everyone feels that to some degree about their main.
Yeah, the grass is always greener on the other character's side.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's hard when you're already at the top. There's no one else to go to.
Yeah.
I can't go, I wish I was playing, you know.
That's why I think it's really important to. That's why it's really important to just kind of stick to one character and really like your character that you've stuck with. Picking a character and enjoying them is just. Well, it's like. That's. It's hard because it means that it's the stickiness of the character, right? Like I can't just switch to another one because I've been invested so heavily into this one. You know what I mean? So, you know, I didn't even know if it would be the same character I'd pick if I started afresh now, but it doesn't matter anymore. That discussion's like out of the picture. It's this one and that's it.
You have to marry your character.
Yeah, it's like an extension of you, and if you want to get better, then you have to be thinking how can I get better, and so you never really think of it in the realm of maybe if I changed bodies I would be better at this. No, you're thinking in the realm of like it's an extension of yourself, and when you try and improve yourself, you don't ever think of the solution of switching out with a different person. That being the solution. So I don't know. It helps you get past those mental blocks, because there's just too many people I've seen who've been stuck in that character crisis, and then it's like no future. Yeah, you have to make it. If you decide, you might have some other characters you might have experimented with, but ultimately you settle on one. But when you settle on them, you really got to settle on them. You can't ever have that doubt lingering in the back of your head that maybe I should change to such and such instead.
Yeah, you can't have those doubts. Otherwise, your opponent capitalizes on them if you consider it mid-set as well. I know I do. Like when someone's feeling like kind of, or like, I don't want to use a specific example at the moment, but like if someone's not doing well with a character and they're thinking about using another character, I'm like, that's kind of like a signal for me to just go for the throat. You know what I mean? Like they're doubting themselves at that point. I can move on. I can advance, capitalize on that.
Yeah. And when they do switch mid-match, it really does reek of like weakness and doubt as well. When someone changes character, it's like, oh man, what? You could even like work it out based on what character they changed to, because it usually gives away what they were struggling with the most, which means that you can target that even more, or completely switch tactics so that they have a new problem to deal with. Like for example, I've had people who play like Falco against me, and then they were like, oh man, they're really struggling to kill. They'll do pretty decently in neutral, they'll get a lot of hits, but they never kill me. And then you see them switch to Fox, and you know they've switched to Fox because they're just trying to address the problem that they just struggled with. But then they don't realize that, oh wait, now Peach can just face rush me because they don't have to worry about lasers anymore. She's suddenly approaching at angles that, like, she's just floating at me or dash attacking or whatever, because they don't have to be concerned about lasers anymore. And then now they don't know how to deal with that problem, and then suddenly it's that kind of thing. That's how you can prey on someone who changes character a lot, and then may not be what they're realizing that they're doing when they do change, is that they're giving away they're unintentionally giving away what their weakness is even more than if you hadn't already worked it out.
I feel like the only time you should be changing character in Perth is if you're Spud. And maybe Carlos can get away with it too. But that's it. Like, just stick to one character. You got to listen to the book of PPMD. I think the smartest thing he's ever said is just play one character. Don't look at the rest of the character select screen. Unless friendlies. Friendlies are a different book. But in tournament, don't go, I'm versing Jason. I main Puff, but he struggles against Fox, so I'm going to play Fox against him. It's like you're gonna lose. If you're not playing your main, you're going to lose to someone who's equal or better than you.
And the thing about like sticking with one character though is that you have to know in advance that more or less the further that you go down the tier list, the more you need to have like the more patient you're going to have to be, the lower you go down the list. You're going to have like nerves of steel once you get about halfway to like not like really just want to commit suicide while playing your character. And then if you go even lower than that,
like answer with a mid-tier character or whatever around the mark could beat everyone in Australia, even Spud. Like if he can do it, then you shouldn't go, oh, this character's not good enough. Which I think a lot of people do. Like, Hungry Box could probably top 8 an Australian major with Ness. Maybe.
Yep.
But it's just the fact of the matter that in Australia, every single character is theoretically viable except for maybe Bowser and Kirby. Even Kirby, actually. Kirby could probably get away with it.
Yeah. And there is absolutely, like, benefits to playing a low tier just to kind of understand how bad it can really be. So that when you do go back to your main character, you're like, holy crap, this character is amazing. But then, you realize, just how bad it can be, but it also forces you to like really have to think how to get around really basic problems. which is something that I was talking to you about why I played Mewtwo, which is that I wanted to just try something new. I was having the whole problem like you decided to stop playing because you weren't enjoying the game so much. I decided to just play a new character for a bit because I was finding the enjoyment of the game waning as well. And I played Mewtwo for a bit, and I just started to see like he had all these kind of unique problems that Peach doesn't have. And then I had to try and think, well, how can I solve these problems? And you don't have any information to go on because there's no data out there for this character. And so, it was like the excitement of, how can I solve these problems? How can I solve that problem? And sometimes you have to get really creative, and sometimes you just have to know that you have a really weak solution to a problem or kind of an inadequate one. And the only way to deal with it is to avoid that situation. And those issues exist with good characters. You can play playing a really good character and you still have that problem where you know that such and such option is totally fraudulent. Like, you know how you do an option, you're like, man, this could totally be beaten, but I just have to do it anyway because no one's beating it yet. Those kind of options are what low tiers thrive on mostly, and why they tend to fail is as they get more and more exposure. If any low tier player was to get that good, I think this is what's actually going to happen to Amsa. He's going to get good enough that it will inspire more Yoshi players to play, and the character's weaknesses will become more understood by the general populace. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't seem to matter so much whether or not one particular good player or two particular good players know how to deal with a character like Yoshi. It needs to be general knowledge basically, and then suddenly those characters will start to crumble in terms of their performance. Because I think that while Yoshi has a lot going for him, and then he does have a lot of potential and could like rise quite high, I think he really does actually have very exploitable weaknesses that are so crippling that ultimately it may not even matter like how good some of the rest of it is. It's kind of like the thought of experiment of how good would Bowser be if his... I think I talked to you guys about this once before. How good would Bowser be if his forward tilt killed you instantly? Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Eventually there'd be counterplays and everything.
Yeah. Because then obviously your whole game would start to be revolving around it, and then you'd be like, you'd have games where like, man, this Bowser player hasn't even used forward tilt in that last game. You know what I mean? Like, because they're playing around the threat of the move rather than the actual move itself. And so it's kind of like an interesting thought experiment because it kind of pressures the situation of how far people are willing to also talk about the theoretical advantage that a character has over another. For example, in the case of the Bowser forward tilt, I would probably say that Bowser would be the best character in the game, or near the best character in the game because of that alone. Because it would just be too powerful. It's like a rest, but without any of the ramifications at all, right?
Yeah.
And Bowser could, there would be all this tech that would be discovered. Crouch cancel forward tilt. Some characters would be completely nullified. His character matchup spreads would be massively in his favor across the board. But someone would still make the argument that, well, technically Foxy's got this, one frame shine at TAS level. Bowser's forward tilt would not even matter. So, but the results would be tournaments with Bowser, because everyone would just be, doing this one thing if they ever did reach that stage. So, it's kind of like at a human level versus at a technical high level.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So we got another question here. How do you keep up the passion for playing the game so long? We kind of touched on it before with you switching up characters, Josh. That only came about recently.
Yeah, it did.
You did take extended breaks though in the middle of it all.
I always have. I think I paced myself pretty well with the game. There were definitely periods where I didn't feel it as much, and I think it was because I did have bad tournament mentality going into some of those ones. There was a little bit of burnout as well along the way, but I feel like I've paced myself pretty well. So I guess that's one thing, pacing yourself in terms of how much you might be playing it. Sometimes you'll be able to play it every day. You might play with friends or net play or whatever. You can do it for that period of time, but outside of like the actual gameplay time and how often you're doing it and all that, I think you really have to enjoying the character is another thing. So you have to really enjoy and be interested in the character that you're playing. And for me, obviously, I do all the like trying to find tech and stuff like that, and that keeps me interested in the character because I'll find it and then I'll want to like explore more and how do I integrate it, and that keeps my interest that way. So yeah, I think those pretty much sum it up. The game is really good, so that helps.
Yeah, that's nice. Enjoying the game is a pretty big factor.
Yeah.
But yeah, pacing yourself, I think that was my mistake. I just went too hard because my thought process was if I'm not playing, then someone else is playing, getting better than me, and I don't want that to happen. So I just kept going until the point where I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Yep.
But it's just, pacing yourself, taking breaks. Don't feel like you're doing anything wrong by taking a break. There's nothing wrong with taking a few months off the game. You can always come back, and it's basically like, I don't know what the name of it is, but you know the thing where like you get to a point and you kind of stagnate, and then you take a significant time off, and you come back and you break that barrier or that stagnation that you're at before. Yeah, does it have a term? Does it have?
I think people call it plateau.
Hiatus? I don't know. It's like having a plateau, having hiatus.
The actual concept of breaking the plateau through
by having a break.
Because it's a concept, but I don't know if it actually has a name. Anyway, that concept it definitely exists for Melee. I think you can get a lot better from taking breaks as well, and not just completely burning yourself out on the game. That's what I think. It's pretty. Just pace yourself. Yeah. Jason.
Yeah, I mean that's probably the big ones, right? You either switch it up, but if you're still not feeling it, then it's probably just time to take a break. It's super important to like refresh yourself mentally. I don't think I've ever seen anyone who just keeps going and going and going in like even like a hobby or like a professional sport or something. They always have even the off season, they take time off for themselves. They just completely don't think about their vocation or whatever they're playing, you know. That's a super big one.
And a lot of the time, whatever you might be doing, I mean, as long as it's not completely degenerate or something like that, hopefully whatever you're doing in your time off might actually be helping in some sort of way, in another way.
Get a new perspective.
Yeah. I think one time Chapos not Chapos, it was Sundowns, that said, I think it was when he took his first set off me at Dyad 2. Or Dyad 1, rather. No, hang on, was it Prime?
Prime 2? Prime 2.
Prime 2, yeah.
2.
He said that he wasn't even practicing, it was just that he had a mental break from the game and came back and it just clicked.
Because I remember Sonny's like was getting pretty sick of it from memory, like not then, but like before then, and he kind of came back and he just started doing a lot better. Like that's when he started beating you and Carlos every now and then, which was a big step up for anyone pretty much in the scene at the time.
Yeah. So
yeah, he just must have refreshed himself completely. Maybe someone to have a chat to if he ever wants to come on the show. If he's in the chat.
You can arrange that.
All right. Is it more productive to practice one/a few things until you're really good at them and then move on, or everything at all once but more slowly?
Definitely one thing at a time, I'd say.
Yeah, one thing at a time. When just to go back onto the Mewtwo example, because that's the best thing I can relate to trying something new, as if like how I would approach that, because I did try that. The first thing I did was basically do down tilt combos. That's literally the first thing I practiced. I was just a fox on FD, and I was just down tilting and getting a good understanding of like how long I can combo it for, how they connect together, the different types of hitboxes of this down tilt, and I just grinded that one thing, and then I grinded another thing where it was like, okay, now I'm going to do down tilt into forward air or something like that. And so there was really nothing fancy about what I was doing. It was just really basic. because as I think it was Ugubi said in the chat, is that if you don't address these kind of really basic core features of your character, bread and butter stuff. First of all, if you actually watch what a lot of players do, like 95% of their gameplay is something that you would be able to do on the first day, kind of thing. Like it's executing a move in the moment. It's they're most of the time they're not doing anything that you couldn't do. They're just doing it at the right time, and so you want to make sure that that you've got that foundation there, because that's when people's play kind of gets a bit silly. I think that's when the type of players that tend to play that silly way that you're talking about before, Matt, tend to be the ones that that have that gap in fundamentals. And a good player will see that gap and just expose you completely for it as well, because they'll be able to recognize you're not even going for a certain option, or you are incapable of finishing off a combo in such a way or something like that. You got to have those, do it one at a time, and make sure when you're doing it one at a time that you're actually thinking, is this tech less important than something else I could be working on? And in terms of priority, I would say that actually being able to kill and combo is the most important thing in the game, and then being able to move very closely after that. Because the person who knows how to kill and combo will slaughter everyone else, all things being equal. Because as soon as they get they hit you with anything, they'll finish off the rest. Whereas someone who moves has very low. They're going to have to be moving a lot to win. Let's put it that way. You're going to have to be outmaneuvering your opponent many, many, many times over to win, when they would just have to hit you once and you die. Or you're more likely, they're going to get much more value out of it. So in terms of priority, you should be thinking about, I'm going to be practicing, especially if you're at a lower level, you should be thinking, how do I combo these moves together against these different characters, and how do I get kill setups on these different characters, these different moves, and that kind of thing. If you have those kind of knowledge gaps, you're going to suffer very badly for not having that. And then you should be able to. But usually they go hand in hand as well. You'll find that when you're trying to do a combo, you'll be trying to do a combo, and you're realizing, man, I just can't reach that time, or I can't move in that certain way to get it. And then you realize, oh wait, this is a perfect opportunity to integrate a wave dash or some other technique that might be specific to your character, and then you can start to piece it together that way. Because if you're thinking along those lines, then it's more. There's a lot of neutral is just a side effect, I think, or more of something that is thought about at the end. You can easily beat someone without even thinking about neutral whatsoever. If you're like if you're spamming attacks, you're doing it very well. You'll crush anyone below you, basically. So
yeah, Spud does it all the time.
He spams attacks in the best possible way. He's like the ones you can't punish, but it's definitely still attack spam in a sense.
Yeah, well, attack spam is good, because usually in Melee the victory goes to the most aggressive player, because they had more opportunities because they threw out more attacks, right? It's like if I said to you, it's like if I said to you, all right, we're gonna have a fist fight, but I get to try and punch you 10 times, and then you get to try and punch me once. You get a lot of time to think about it, but I'm just gonna throw 10 punches. At the end of the day, you're gonna get punched.
Yeah.
And I'm likely to hit you more than once. You know what I mean? And you're only gonna get one back at worst. So if you think about it like that, you can understand why attack spamming is absolutely a strategy. Especially at the earlier or mid levels, if you can spam attacks safely, then you'll find that you're basically attacking and defending at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. You can't. What's the classic quote? Like, you're gonna miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just swing. You might lose at the beginning. You'll lose, but eventually you'll learn when not to swing, and then it'll
exactly. Yep, that's another really good point as well. I actually think that's really important for I think it's really important for math players more than anything. I think that character is actually
Yeah.
really all about like knowing when to swing, because he gets punished like against good players. That's where his weakness is, when he swings at the wrong time. And then, but I think at the early stages, can get away with it a bit more with that character. But you really obviously have to tighten it up as quickly as possible after that point.
Yes, Sonny said that's how he learned.
Yes, until he gets beaten out of me.
It's true.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it works. I think, Marth is especially the character that makes the most sense for.
Oh, of course, it's so tempting, because you always feel like you should be able to attack first with Marth because you're further away from them, but have access to them before they have access to you in terms of the range advantage. So.
Swing first, yep.
All right, so we got two more. I think we'll call it after these two, because it's been going an hour more than I thought it would. Actually, an hour and a half more than I thought it would.
I'm honestly not surprised.
Quality content.
Yeah.
Quality content.
It's always a long one with
Quetz. We've had a lot to talk about. How do you improve without people to play regularly with? I find one of the hardest aspects of improving.
Yeah, keep going.
I find one of the hardest aspects of improving in PM/melee is not having access to a group that are actively willing to improve regularly. Also, living far away from most doesn't help. Net play.
Okay, net play is your first answer.
He said he has bad internet.
If you have bad internet, okay, we're definitely getting into like hard territory here. Yeah. You have to. You have to have the most mindful level 1 beating up a fox you've ever had. Like, you have to be beating up on that level 1 fox, but with like a very critical eye in terms of really thinking about whether that's actually truly going to work. You know, even thinking about your positioning when you hit him in a certain combo. Like, you have to be pretending that he's about to recover or something like that. Say, for example, you're doing a combo near the edge. You hit him off, but then you kind of jump off the stage to hit him because you know exactly where the level 1 fox recovers. You would be better off thinking about where would I normally position myself if I didn't know how the fox was going to recover, and actually taking that position anyway, or just imagining in your head like what it would be. This is very difficult. I mean, the prospects of getting good just off nothing but like level 1 computers is difficult. You really just have to come up with a plan of what you're going to do about it. You can get a lot of knowledge out of like watching videos, but I actually think that that's a bit of a trap, because normally, like, I think that was kind of recommended to people back in the day when net play wasn't so much of a thing. But I think it hurt people more than anything, because what tends to happen when you watch too many videos is that you start to play like the person that you're watching, but without all the understanding that went into why they're choosing the whatever option they chose at that moment. And so what happens is you try and emulate exactly what that person did, and then you'll be left wondering, why didn't that combo work the way that I thought it did, or why didn't that edge guard work that way that they worked for them? And there's usually some very subtle difference that they chose it for a reason, and they chose it for that reason because they have experienced problem. That they thought about the problem and came up with that solution themselves, and so they know exactly the triggers that made them go for this option. And so when you come in and you try and just transplant that idea into your gameplay without the knowledge of those very finely tuned triggers, then you just won't work. There'll always be something just a little bit off about it, and you'll be frustrated for that reason. But then eventually, as you get better of a player, you might have to start undoing some of that, what your bad habits that you've learned. You just autopilot a certain motion, and that can be much more painful than if you had just thought about it for yourself first. I reckon the best way to learn from videos is to try and solve the problem yourself. You usually, I always hear about it from someone. They always ask me the question as if I play their character. I'm on how to solve a particular problem. Like, oh, I didn't know how to deal with this. How do I deal with that? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't play a character. I'd have to play a character to know what I would do to deal with that. And so when you're about to ask someone that question, or when you're thinking it, how do I deal with this problem? I keep running into this same problem. You need to actually think about it for yourself. What moves can I use? Can I just change the timing? Can I just change the spacing? And if you're really stuck, or even if you do have a good solution, that's when you can check what good players are doing. You'll find that they'll end up in the same situation, and then you'll see what they'll do, and then you'll understand, oh, now I see why they're doing that option. Or you'll be like, oh, that's a good idea. I'll use that idea myself now because I went into the video thinking about a problem that needed to be solved and I got something out of it, rather than just sitting in front of the video and by osmosis just taking it all in and being it as if that's just going to work. So yeah, that would be my best recommendation on integrating videos into your game plan. But I wouldn't start there. You need to find the problem first, and then look at find the problem, come up with your own solution, and then check what good players, people that are better than you are doing, and then compare. Because maybe you might have come up with a better idea. Who knows? But usually a good player typically has either a similar idea or a slightly more refined idea than what you might have come up with.
Just a small thing though, on the you might have come up with a better idea. If you come up with an idea that you think is better than an idea you see in a video, don't just take that video's idea for as like, oh, I shouldn't do my idea is worse because Mango's doing this. Like you gotta think critically in that regard. Just always consider your idea first, and if it works, and then consider the higher level person's idea, because there's a lot of times when people will retract what they're doing because they see a high level player do something different, and that can really hinder your growth, because you can lose confidence in yourself and your thoughts. So it's always worth, basically, what you're saying, I'm just going to check with this Quetz, is you're saying kind of use the VOD as an answer guide to a question you might have?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, don't always take that answer as the only correct answer, because Melee is one of those games where there's dozens of correct answers for every situation. So if you believe you've got a good answer, run it by many people, try it yourself, see what happens, and then check the answer guide, or check the answer guide to get your second opinion. Yeah.
And the solution you might see someone go for something that seems neither here nor there. Let's say it was a combo finisher, or a way that they're extending a combo, and they went for a certain move and you went for a different one. And you were thinking, why? I can't understand why they're going for that one. My one seems just as good. As long as you consciously thinking about it, still stick with your one, and the solution about why they're going for a different one will eventually come to you when maybe it's a matter of versing better players. It could be a DI thing, it could be a DI trap, it could be that they're expecting someone to do this or that. It's very hard to see. It's like you can't understand an option that you've never experienced before. Like, you can't know that someone's going to do something when no one you've played has ever gone for it. One of the first things that people notice when they play better players is like, oh man, I've never seen anyone do that before in that situation. No one's ever done that to me. So you couldn't possibly think of that as a solution to your problem then, if you're going back, until someone better comes along and shows an answer to it. And that's when you change your own solution. Or that's when you make the realization, now I get it. Now I see why such and such player does that. It does happen. It's not. I'm not just talking in a theoretical sense. It absolutely is. This is absolutely applicable.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's it's got so many levels and layers that you just. People that come into watching videos with the whole osmosis idea, it's funny.
Yeah, doesn't.
It's good to if you're just eating lunch or something and you watch a VOD, you might get something out of it. Like every now and then, you might see a combo that you want to try or something like that. Or you see a little situation, you're like, oh yeah, I didn't think of that. That might be good, but Yeah, the way you're saying to watch videos is obviously way more efficient.
Yeah.
If you're using them, you don't need them to get good.
Yeah, because if you started off with that whole like building small idea and you're just kind of building and building from there, you have a much stronger core that is like, you know, it's like you're made out of a rock rather than a popsicle stick tower kind of thing, held together with popsicle sticks and sticky tape.
Yeah.
Foundation.
But ready
You
to
don't want
burst
that
at the
one.
seams.
Yeah, completely unraveled from like, you know, someone pulling one thing out. Oh, look, your whole game plan is now, you know, in a pile.
And you have no plan B.
Yeah.
Does anyone have anything else to add to that one, or we'll move on to the last question?
Yeah, I think everyone's just chilling.
Just chilling. All right, last question of the day. Thanks for everyone who tuned in. It's been a good one. How do you feel when you see new players overtake you? Respect for their improvement ability and the effort they put into the game, or some bitterness for falling behind? This one's interesting because I feel like none of us have really experienced players getting ahead of us.
Yeah.
But if anyone wants to say anything about it, go for it.
Where do I begin with that answer?
The only person that I can really maybe say that that's happened to me with, and this is really stretching it because we hardly played before and after, is Sora, who would have been ranked below, well, like in a kind of fantasy ranking, would have been ranked below me pre-Dyad maybe, and then is now above. And I don't really feel anything about that because he's from another state and we rarely interact with each other. So there's not much to say. Like in Perth, it's obviously not a thing. So I don't know what to say about that. I don't know how exactly I might cope with it, I guess. I guess I would be confident. I would be confident in my own way of playing the game, that regardless of that. Oh man, it's tricky. Hey, I don't know. I don't know. It's difficult.
No, it's a good question, but it's just we don't have a lot of experience in it. Jason, what are you gonna say? Like, you got a piece?
Yeah. So this is the way I imagine it. So imagine you're doing a running race and you've started in front of someone. You should never ever look behind. If you see them rush past you, then I think from where you're at, you should never keep looking behind or like be frustrated with yourself, and because it's a race, you just want to keep going forward. Like you can see him in your vision if he's ahead of you, right? So then that's when you acknowledge, all right, he's ahead of me. So you just have to keep going forward. Like don't get down yourself because you'll slow down. Right? This is all just imagine you're running, right? How would you feel like if someone's just running past you and you decide, oh fuck, he's gone past me, and what did I do wrong? And then you kind of like, there's like more people coming behind you, like trying to like get past you again. And if you're looking behind them, you're gonna slow down again and again. So you just have to worry about yourself, and then whoever's ahead of you, you should use them as like people to latch onto to try and push, kind of pull yourself forward. You know how in races, like in like a car race, someone's not always going to stay first. They'll they'll stay behind draft because they need to like pit stop their car or something. So they'll eventually have to fall behind a little bit. But to do that, you have to like sacrifice a bit of whatever you're doing.
Yeah, it's kind of like someone overtaking you might be what you needed in order to be even better.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
it might have been the kick up the ass you needed in order to like actually properly. It's like a wake up call that your improvement rate was slowing down, or something like that. Everyone's different as well, you know. You can't assume that everyone's running at the same speed as well. Yeah, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So
eventually. The
Yeah.
long run.
You can
I
just
think you should
compare
take
people
both.
like-
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say you can compare people like Dennis and Jason, who both ended up like right now they're like the same. I mean, not right now, but like a year ago they would have been around the same level. But Dennis got good in 4 months, and Jason, took a little bit longer. It doesn't necessarily mean that Dennis is faster than Jason in the running race aspect. It just means that Dennis started quicker. And yeah, it doesn't mean like if Dennis jumps out in front of everyone just because he's a fast starter, it doesn't mean you should lose hope. It just means you just need to start running harder pretty much.
Yeah.
Push more.
I think Janos is kind of on the idea I was about to say. I think you need to think about both aspects, like both the negative and the immediate negative, which is what oh man, I'm frustrated that someone's overtaken me. What have I done? Like, what is wrong with the way that I'm playing, kind of thing. Because that's usually an indicator that you could have been doing more to not have someone overtake you. Obviously, the other thing is also making sure that, despite the fact that you might be frustrated that someone else has overtaken you, to not become bitter, but also like turn it into a something productive where you can use that as a find out how did they get better than you, what were they doing differently. Maybe you can do the same thing. The implication that they got better than overtook you means that you're at a similar level, right? So they might have done something that's changed their mindset, and you can just kind of be a bit more adult about it and ask them, what did you do differently, or just ask them, because if they've done if they've improved to a point that they're able to overtake someone, especially if this situation was happening in Perth where it's much harder to leapfrog the person above you, then the person's not going to be oblivious to how they did it. They're not going to be like, I don't know how I just suddenly got better. They've obviously done something to like improve. They've practiced in such a way, or they did something. So you may as well just ask them what they did. It's not like they're going to be like, no, I'm not going to tell you. I'm just gonna lord it over you in my one spot higher. So I think you can just you can either learn from it, you can be disappointed, you can both, and but just don't lose. You can't be disheartened by it, because you can obviously apply whatever they did for yourself and the same kind of leap. There's obviously so many layers to this game that, relative to their improvement over you, there's obviously someone who's like light years better than them as well. So there's definitely a big sliding scale here of where you have to move.
I mean, there are positives. You could look at it positively as well. Like, if someone gets better than you, then that's just another person you can get better than. They're giving you another option to improve there as well. And if it's like, you've gotten better than him and then he's gotten better than you, and it just keeps going like that, you're both going to eventually be very good players, or just very good at whatever you're doing. So it's not a bad thing if someone gets better than you.
Yeah, and that's what we kind of want in Australia altogether, is that we want people to be really good so that we have this kind of like presence. But also we really want Perth to be really good as well, so that we want each other to do really well when it comes to interstate events and playing,
win a crew battle,
having win a crew battle, or perform well, or have that that reputation and everything like that, all that stuff.
Yeah, I think one thing that I've kind of changed is stop comparing myself to all of my peers, because it eventually envelops part of your mindset. I think that you should only really compare yourself to where you were like yesterday or something like that.
Yeah.
So everyone's so different that you're comparing apples with oranges, even if it's like, oh, me and it doesn't matter who, me and Dennis are like, oh, we both play Melee, but it's not the same. You're two completely different people with two completely different minds who are thinking about the game completely differently. So it's like just comparing results to results and head to heads and all friendlies and whatever people compare. It's just not going to work. It's just going to either put you down or boost your ego unnecessarily.
Yeah, you have to be thinking along those same lines as, what do I have to bring to the table that I can use, that's special to me, that I can bring into this game that can help be better. You know what I mean? Like if you're doing that kind of reflection of, oh, they did it this way, it might not be a case of, they might have done it in a way that you doesn't really work for you. So you can go back and think, well, what does improving for me look like? How do I do it? So I know that's a bit vague, but I'm talking about like, does that mean that I have to be practicing every day? Does that work for me, or does working for me mean, playing, we're talking about it with friends or something like that, or thinking about the game on an intellectual level, or I don't know. Yeah. Maybe I need a break from the game. Maybe it's just what I need is time off or something like that. You just have to think about how you do it.
At the end, yeah. So at the end of the day, even though none of us really have that much experience in getting overtaken, we all agree that it shouldn't be too big of a concern to you. It shouldn't matter. And there will be a bit of bitterness, but there'll also be a bit of we didn't really answer the question in regards to how we felt about the other person. We only thought about it in regards to how we can use it to improve.
How should you?
I don't think I'd be bitter.
You don't. Yeah, you don't.
I don't think I'd be bitter. Yeah. I wouldn't really be happy about it either, honestly. I just wouldn't. It would not, like, that person's improvement wouldn't matter to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, you'd have to be like congratulatory, because obviously.
I wouldn't be like, oh, good job. I wouldn't like hungry box it, like hugging him and everything. I'd be like, yeah, good job, dude. You got me.
Yeah. It's kind of like for them to, if it matters to them, then it's kind of telling you that you mattered enough to them for it to matter to them. Do you know what I mean? Like, if it was an accomplishment to them, then it means that it's like a positive thing for you, because it means that you were good enough for them to see you as a something worthy of accomplishment to become better than. So yeah, that's always a positive to take away from it. And if they're better than you, then they're better than you. Everyone's got someone who's better than them, so it's not like we haven't experienced what that's like before either. So yeah, it's I'm sure you'll get over it. You just got to get over it.
Yeah, humility and defeat.
Just get over it. Yeah,
just get over it.
You suck anyway. Everyone sucks.
Just get over it for it.
Quetz mentality. Yeah. Just get over it.
You won't be thinking about it that hard shortly anyway.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be like an in the moment thing. You might think about it for the day after, and then you're just like, well, you know what? Let's get better. Let's just not have this issue.
Or let's just be salty and quit.
Yeah.
No, I quit.
Just quit. Oh yeah, you're like first on the PR, someone overtakes, and you're like, fuck this, I'm done.
Yeah. or you beat them once more, you beat them again to have it like a 0-0, and then you never play again. So
you just do it.
And this, you can always be like, well, it's ambiguous, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I did win the last one, so.
Yeah.
Rage quit, break controller, call up mum for money for new controller, rinse, repeat. Sounds like a strategy.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
I think we're on the mark. It's been 3 hours. It's been a pleasant 3. It's actually gone really quick. Doesn't feel like 3.
Yeah, thanks everyone for sitting around. Yeah, it was a nice talk. We always go for hours, but I thought it'd be time we share our ideas. But yeah, okay.
I haven't eaten yet. So.
Considering how important or how much of an impact this game has played on all of our lives, it really does feel like a tragedy to just let it die.
Yeah, no,
absolutely.
We'll try and keep it afloat.
We'll bring it back. It's coming. It's coming. Guys, get excited.
Oh man, don't make promises. Well,
yeah.
I know everyone's screaming dead tournaments, but it's like, yeah, we're all trying. It's a hard process.
It is tough. I mean, look at Smash 4. They're struggling as well. In Perth, you don't just find a venue. Venues don't come to you. You got to look for them. But we'll try. We've got some avenues. We've discussed it in the podcast. If you want to go and look back to get some little tips and tricks, then go for it. It'll be on YouTube somewhere. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. But
yeah, do you want to shout out anything, Quetz? Do you want to say any last words?
No, I think I've said more. I I've run out of things to say.
You spoke your heart out.
Definitely extracted full value out of me in these 3 hours.
It's pretty good.
Oh yeah, plug the chase. Plug the chase.
Plug the chase.
Oh, yeah.
Chase is on Thursday night, 2 days from now. 8 p.m. Be there.
Every
Video
Thursday
game
night.
music quiz night. Every Thursday.
Australian
Night.
Western Standard Time.
If you like your video game music, you should be there.
It's tough.
Like Quetz's voice, you should be there.
Yeah. the power creep is
Oh
real.
my god, the power creep is too
I
much
can't
for me, man.
Insanely good.
I can't compete anymore, dude.
Yeah,
I just
it's-
can't compete anymore. It's too hard. Everyone's so good now.
Yep.
It's just
Would
Well,
I
then
ever
you-
consider doing a live? I'll answer that question on the show. You have to wait.
Yeah. Can we get some beard ASMR quickly before we end?
No, it's not the same when you can see me.
Yeah.
I think part of the ASMR is the enigma of
the sound.
the sound.
Where's it
Yeah,
coming from? Is this really
Yeah.
a beard?
yeah, exactly.
Jason, I'm going to ask you on air because we haven't actually discussed this. How often do you want to do this? Every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks?
I don't want to do it too often. I feel like it'll lose its charm if we do it too often. So
So is that a threer?
yeah, I'd say a 3-er once a month. Because
Alright,
like
so-
what's gonna happen in the next 3 weeks we can talk about.
Well,
I
if you
mean-
can time it with the tournaments,
I don't think
these
tournaments.
hypothetical tournaments.
Like how much of Perth Smash did we actually? I mean, how much of tournaments did we actually talk about today?
Yeah.
For like
I mean-
20 minutes.
Well, there's nothing to talk about, so there is actually I didn't even know what we would talk about in that regard.
We talked about BAM for 5 minutes pretty much, and that was it. We didn't talk about any major tournaments. Not that there's so much to talk about, but I think
Yeah.
that as long as the guest has something to talk about or has some interesting story to say, then it's still going to flow on anyway. Because I mean, we talked about everything for the last 3 hours.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll consider us back in 3 weeks. We'll let you know if anything changes. We'll have a brand new guest. I don't know if they'll be able to compete with Quetz.
Yeah.
We might have blown our load. we picked our best guest.
Premature.
Yeah. Should have saved you for like a 10th episode special.
Nah, you always want to
Like-
start off the best pilot. So then you set the
Yeah,
precedent.
that's true.
So hopefully we see you guys again.
But yeah, we'll figure it all out. We'll be in touch.
I'm sure.
All right.
All right.
See you guys.
Thanks
All right,
everyone for
catch you
tuning in.
later, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for
No
dropping by,
worries.
man.
No worries.
Great.
All right, hold
Yeah.
on. All right, so thanks everyone
hang
for
on.
tuning in. I appreciate all you guys. Make sure you follow our social media. This is going up on YouTube. It's going to be a long ass video, but we'll make sure to get it annotated so you can click through it and stuff like that. It's good. Thanks for all the support as well. It means a lot. We reached up to 32 viewers at one point, and we're going at 25 still. So it's good to see a lot of
I'm good,
interest.
Evan.
A lot of interest. Like this is
Below 20.
even since the KIC show. Like this is like tripled our highest.
Yeah. I'm kind of sad about that because I was totally a fan, but
Yeah, well,
This is
this
the
is going to be
future.
the same thing. This is the future. Technology's
Yeah.
here. It's worked out well, and it's good to see everyone's enjoyed it. So hopefully we'll see you guys if about, I'd say 3 weeks. I'll give it 3 weeks. We'll have
Same time.
Yep, same time. We'll have a whole bunch of controversial stuff to talk about. Who knows? We'll try and keep an interesting content for you boys. So yeah, take it easy, everyone. Be safe, and make sure you follow Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter, all on the screen. Mark the calendar. Yep. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Peace.
catch you later.
See ya.